And we are live. Last word with LordCognito not being here and Ebontis, and also sometimes Tie Guy Travis. Hello and welcome. Ebontis, how are you doing on this fine Thursday evening?
Cold, as I'm sure most people around the country are dealing with right now. We dropped down to, we're in the teens right now, which is,
Whoa.
for us in Texas, that is definitely gonna get us cold. I know everybody in like Minnesota and Wisconsin's like, it's -6 degrees. So believe me, and I have been there for a year, so I understand. But it's cold, very cold today, but been very busy with a lot of Destiny, trying to crank out as much content as I can before the weekend and all the holidays and everything kick off, and YouTube's like, hey, to your CPM, so that goes down.
Really? That happens, huh?
Hard. Like, if not in Christmas, January and December are like night and day months. They are. So if you've seen people are like pumping out content right now, they'll do bigger stuff now, and then they're like, hey, I'll experiment in January because it's not gonna matter as much. So yeah, YouTube is, it's a big drop in January. And of course, like, this game will get quieter too, depending on the day it releases. But yeah, if we had like a November release for like the expansion, kind of almost like we used to, that would actually probably be better, even though it might be fighting for more stuff, just because like a February release for the content. March isn't as bad because it's like February 28th right into March helps, but yeah. Other than that, yeah, just too many games on my backlog that I'm not gonna get to, but it's kind of how the release schedule goes this year. What about you?
Yeah. Well, my IGN work wrapped up for the year last
Nice.
week, so I get to experience 2 weeks of being a #normal gamer. I am simply catching up on games that I missed because I was working on reviews all year. And yeah, I finished Immortality, Modern Warfare 2. Now I'm working on Pentiment. I'm working on God of War Ragnarok. My list has like 8 games on it, and I'm trying to start with the ones that I think I could finish in like one sitting first, 1 or 2 sittings, trying to do away
Ragnarok's
with
not one of
that.
those unless you just don't.
Ragnarok is not one of those. I think Callista Protocol is
You
one
could
I
do
could
that in
probably
one. I
get
hear that's
done.
like
I'll probably do that in
10-ish, whether
the
it's 8 to 12. But yeah, you could do that in a
Yeah.
long day.
I could probably pop that one out. So I'm trying to use my time valuably because I already have my next review lined up, which is, first week of January, and then a preview as well of an upcoming game. Actually, I could say what the upcoming game is. It's Skull and Bones.
Oh,
which I'm very interested to see what that
I
game is going to be
could
like.
not tell you any. I am so curious about
Me
that.
too. That's why I accepted the assignment. I was like,
you are probably the perfect critic for that one.
Well, I'm not reviewing that one. I'm merely previewing it. It's somehow not ready for review yet. I think
I'm
it's
trying
the
to figure out what
74th
you're
time it's
previewing.
been.
That's early January. There's like One Piece Odyssey is like the first thing in January.
I'm not reviewing that. I'm reviewing a SpongeBob SquarePants platformer game.
All right.
Yeah.
I did not even know that was a thing.
Did I?
I don't even see it
learned
on like
about it.
release. I don't see it on like release calendars on like Game Informer, or it's
I'm
not.
pretty sure it's coming out in January. Let me look it up.
I mean, I
Quick.
believe you.
I'll give you.
It's more the idea of
I
just
mean,
like,
I haven't looked into it yet. He told me it was in January, and I thought, okay, that's a million years away. I will defer to you. But yeah, let's see. What is this game? What is going on? It's called SpongeBob SquarePants: The Cosmic Shake.
Okay. Well,
It's listed on Steam. When does it come out? January 31st. So I guess I'm reviewing it in early January, and then it's coming out late January. So.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, it says 23rd on here, but yeah, it's probably just not updated.
There you go. Cosmic Shake.
Nice.
The platform.
And then you say that I'm honestly more curious about Skull and Bones. I mean, I've heard too many people talk about Assassin's Creed 4. They made the game and then you can get off the boat, and this is just the boat stuff. I don't know. Ubisoft has not been.
But they changed that, right? It's now they put the off the boat stuff back in the game.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah, it's like a third person like RPG game. Like you walk around and do stuff outside of the boat. So I'm also very curious about this one. I kind of mostly took the assignment out of curiosity because I was just like, why is this game taking a decade to come out?
Yeah, I mean that's it. I will be curious what you have to say about that one for sure. What else you working?
Yeah.
What else is in that backlog?
Backlog. What else? I'm working my way through Midnight Suns. I'm almost done with that. I'm a good chunk of the way through that game. And what else didn't I finish this year?
You beat Forbidden West? Did you play that?
Forbidden West. Yeah, I played
Okay.
through that.
That's
I
like
beat that
probably
when it
my
came out.
biggest omission, I would say, especially for what I
No,
typically like. But yeah, I was like, now with
I
the DLC in April, I think I'll just do it all together. But yeah, I was like, that's the one for this year in my game of year voting. Like that's the one I feel like, depending on how the story went and how much I like the combat, it could have been right there between the others, but who knows?
yeah. I agree, and I that one, I actually think Forbidden West. I enjoyed it more than I'm currently enjoying Ragnarok of what I've played. So I think you'd like it. I
Oh,
really
I was
do.
like, the first one I had a blast, so I'm looking forward to getting back in the bow combat and everything. It was just fun, and I know it's not like the most novel thing, but like the way they did the robot dinosaurs, I know it's like robot dinosaur. You're like, okay, Transformers, Beast Wars, not the first time, but the way they did it was just very well done, and I was impressed, especially when they went from what was the previous franchise they did, the shooter for a long time for Gorilla.
Uh, is that Infamous they did?
No, I haven't
Was
played
somebody
the one on
else?
PS4 because it was like the only game at launch.
Oh,
Killzone,
Killzone.
Shadowfall, yeah, Killzone. So they went from Killzone,
That
which
game's terrible. The one that came out on PS4. That
yeah,
one's
and that
really
was like the
bad.
only one, but I was like, there's nothing else on my PS4, so I should probably try this. And I was like, all right. So they go from that to like the first Horizon. I was extremely impressed. So but yeah.
Yeah.
Quick heads up to everybody, by the way. Advanced GG doing a buy one, get one just through the weekend. So if you do hear this podcast soon, you can use my code or anything like that. Just make sure you use like the links. I'll tag them in a couple places. Just sharing that with everybody. You honestly, like, as I was sitting there looking for a game, the game I'm probably the most. What are you looking forward to in outside of Destiny? Of course, you know we're going to cover that, but like in the first couple of months, what are your top 2 games you're looking most forward to or most intrigued by? Like some you know are going to be good, some you got big questions on. What are you most curious about?
Ooh, I would have to see a list because there's so damn many.
Here, I can give you a pretty quick list.
Yeah, give me a quick list.
I was like, I will start with one of mine, make life a little easier.
Curious or excited about?
Kind of all of the above. Like one of my big head scratchers because I just don't know is Hogwarts Legacy.
That
Because
one I am also super nervous about because I want it to be
exactly
good. But I'm kind of like, is it gonna be
from what
good?
I've seen, they've shown a lot. They've shown Hogwarts in depth. You've got your own little like room of requirement. You can get on your broom. Like everything I keep seeing, I'm like, how either it is like the most linear thing, and we're seeing like a lot of the pieces, or it's going to
Yeah,
be 100-hour game with like a bazillion side quests and cool story. I just don't know. I will say the writing looks better than Forsaken because
yeah. Forsaken
Forspoken.
one. Forspoken is one I am not excited about
I
based
gotta
on
play
what
the
I've seen.
demo, and I think the combat could be fun, but from what I've seen, just the writing is, which is sad
Yeah,
because, like in theory, it seems kind of cool, but the writing on that one seems kind of like the writing on Midnight Suns, from what I've gathered. Like the out of combat stuff for Midnight Suns. When I saw one or two of those lines, those were pretty cringy. But
it's kind of campy. I wouldn't say it's bad. It's sort of like it's just a weird like high school dating sim vibe is like
yeah, I
the
was like,
way
I
I
got a
put
couple
it.
blips. There's
So
like platonic swimsuit moments. I was like, what are we doing in this Marvel game?
yeah, so it has like a very like it is a dating sim full on. Like dating sims
So weird.
don't have to have like romantic love to be a dating sim. It has all
Okay.
of the mechanics of like you buy gifts and then you give them to different people that you think will like them and it increases your social links with them. And it's like very I mean, it's super cool because it's just not what you would expect. I can't believe they made a game where you get to like hang out with and like bro down with like random iconic Marvel heroes. It's super weird. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. Looking at this list,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm wondering what Starfield is gonna do. That one is like
I was like, I know. I was like, well, we're gonna hear all about it on Defining Duke and Last Stand Media, and
love or the the new Legend of Zelda follow-up to Breath of the Wild,
oh, I
Tears of
lost
the
you for a
Kingdom.
second there.
Oh, you did? Did
Yeah,
I
so
miss
you
something?
mentioned Starfield, and then I kind of like lost you for a second.
Oh yeah, yeah. Starfield, I'm normally I'm very excited for Bethesda games, but I just haven't seen enough of this game. So I'm wondering if it's going to be good or, I don't really know.
I don't
I'm
have
I'm
like a huge tie. Like, I mean, I watch Divine Duke and I've checked out Maddie's channel and stuff like that, and obviously he's a huge Fallout guy and everything like that. So for him, he's giantly invested into Bethesda games because it's their next big one.
yeah.
All I played of all of Fallout was Fallout 4, and I heard it wasn't great. So
Oh, wow.
I miss like
Wow.
New
You play
Vegas and
Skyrim?
no, never really played Skyrim. I kind of missed that.
Oh,
Yeah, I know. I
whoa.
missed that. I
That's
missed
crazy.
those. So I'm not a huge Bethesda person at all. And so far from what I'm seeing at Starfield, I was like, it hasn't sold me yet to just be like, I'm so ready to jump into that. Like when you guys talked about Mass Effect, I'm like, all right, I kind of see what's going on. I get an idea. And then I jumped into Mass Effect 1 and 2 and I played them. I was like, okay, I 100% get it. Great stories, cool, like world building, like the alien, the races, the dialogue choices. That was fantastic. And my worry is something like Mass Effect, not 4 or whatever. What was the middle one?
Andromeda.
Andromeda, yeah, that one's kind of like the one nobody.
It's actually not the middle one. It was the fourth one.
Fourth
it was
one,
after
yeah.
the trilogy. Yeah.
The one that nobody talks about. But I mean, I don't know. After Mass Effect was so good, I worry something like Starfield is gonna feel. I worry it's gonna feel more like Fallout 4 than Mass Effect, and I want it to be like Mass Effect, but I don't know if it can get there. Am I getting a bad connection with you?
That
I think I'm getting a bad connection with you. Hold on, let me try and pick.
I actually caught it. I saw you bouncing around.
Let me try and change regions on us. Control. All right, I tried to change servers. Hopefully that helps instead of it being weird. So maybe that'll get stick.
Yeah. So what I was saying was, I don't think they're trying to compete with Mass Effect. I mean, everything I've seen so far, it's going to be more grounded. So I think they're trying to do like maybe they're trying to do hard sci-fi, right? Like space exploration, humanity taking to the stars, which I think
almost like Star
could
Trek.
be really. Star Trek, I almost compared it to that, but Star Trek is still even, I think, a little bit too out there compared to what they're actually trying to do. So I'm hopeful for it. I do believe in Bethesda's ability to world build. They've never been as good at storytelling as like a massive as a BioWare. BioWare is good at storytelling, but I would say Bethesda's world building chops are very strong, and I think that studio still has a lot to offer. It's just a matter of, how buggy is it going to be? We know it's going to be somewhat buggy at least. How buggy is it going to be? And just they tend to take a lot of big bets, and it seems like their bet with this one is that people are going to want to explore hundreds of planets, a lot of which are, I think, randomly generated.
Yeah, probably randomly made and kind of like, polished up by a random person, kind of that type
so
of
I'm a little worried about that and like how fun it's going to be, but we'll see. I am excited about that one, but yeah, there's a lot of good stuff next year. Obviously we're going to be playing some Destiny and
Destiny.
March?
I'm curious if Wild Hearts is another one, because Monster Hunter, I didn't play Rise much. I played a little bit, got a feel cool. World, I just put a lot of time into and actually thoroughly enjoyed Monster Hunter World. So I'm waiting for kind of World 2 whenever that comes. I'm curious if Wild Hearts can even like scratch that itch good enough. But again, the way it's coming out time-wise, I don't know when I'm going to get to that.
Yeah, I think Atomic Heart is also coming out pretty early next year. I want to play that one.
Is that the same month or is that?
I think it is. I think it's like a couple days after Wild Hearts.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. 17th and 21st. Yep.
Yeah, so a lot of hearts going on. If only we could get Kingdom Hearts that same week. That'd be great.
Jedi Survivor, though, probably my other one. That one, like Hogwarts Legacy, I'm very, very curious, very anxious, not entirely sure if they can deliver on everything that promise. Jedi Survivor, I just want to play that because I know it's going to be awesome. Like, there's not a question in my mind. That one, and then Wolong looks fun too. But I would say,
so Wolong, I'm sure you played the demo for Wolong, right?
I played it a couple times. Yep.
Yeah, so I played it after the demo. I did a preview for IGN on that game, and I was basically, the highlight of the preview was that I was very impressed by how many changes they made after that beta.
Yep.
They like made a lot of changes almost immediately. So I think that game's gonna kick ass.
Nice.
I really do.
And then
I'm
what's
pretty excited
what's
about
in
that
2024? They've got like Ronin or something. Same studio, right? They
one.
have
Oh
another
yeah,
one.
I
I
don't
think
know
that's
about
the
that one.
PlayStation one. That might be more the open world kind of one. I think that they're working on doing. But yeah, I mean
Yeah.
Diablo 4 in June.
Oh yeah,
S-
Diablo.
Diablo 4, like Diablo 4. I think like I don't know if I'm gonna pre-order it just because like Blizzard. I'm kind of curious about the microtransactions, but I mean I'll play it for sure. Yeah, it should be fun. But as you said in February, Lightfall, and we're in the
I
middle
mean, we'll
of.
see.
We'll
Are
see.
we still supposed to believe that game is
I
coming out in
mean,
February?
they have given us no reason to think that it's not at this point because season pass shows that days are counting down, and they didn't release a season with a date. Like last time when they deleted it, it was far enough in advance that season. When the season dropped, they delayed it before the season because it had like I don't know 180
Yeah.
days on the season or something ridiculous. But it seems like it's going to hit. Now, I don't know. There was a recent video that Aztecross did, and I don't know how old the GDC talk was, but it was one that Bethesda had done. Are we still having a bad connection? That's so weird.
Yeah, I lost you for a little bit there. It looks like it may be on your side because I'm seeing you freak out on a YouTube video.
That's so odd. Because I'm looking, I don't show dropped frames, at least right now on OBS, which is weird. But I was just trying to, I'll see if I can do a West server. Maybe it's better for you that way. All right, we'll see how this goes for Discord at least. I picked a West server. Maybe it helps you a little bit, but we'll see. I don't know, man. It seems like they're going to go hard. But I was going to say about the GDC talk, Aztecross did a video on it. I don't know how old it was. And I think it was Justin Truman, one of the two directors right now, because I don't think it was Joe Blackburn. And they were talking about velocity as like one of their main things that they're focusing on. So I don't know how old it was. But it was basically the idea that being as they're in this live service model, the velocity of your content is now more important than it being perfect. And that, like, when I heard that, I'm like, okay, I can literally just like season after season after season, they have been buggy. The game ships, it gets out the door. Like they're hitting these like strides. They're trying to make sure they hit like whether it's 12, 13, 14 weeks, whatever it is. It seems like they're doing that. So now it's the point where it's like, now they've put themselves in like the annual release box of February and they want to, you know, stick the landing and have 3-month seasons and whatever it may be.
Rage against.
Huh?
Ironically, the thing that they used to rage against.
Right. Yeah. So like they've put themselves in the box for this like kind of consistent cash cow, but unfortunately the consistency comes with a lack of, and it's not a lack of finding bugs, it's a lack of time to QA, prioritize, and other things, I think. And at this point, if they know it's buggy, they are kind of okay with the minimalistic bugs. Some are bigger than others we've seen, especially in seasons, and they keep coming, but it's more like throw it out and then, you know, fix the engine while it's running and just keep going. So it seems like they're just on this treadmill now of just output. That's why I was like, when I heard that, and then when the season came out, I was like, I guess Lightfall's on the 28th, and that's not budging. But I'm with you, man. I am still surprised they're going to hit that one. I know they have more people. I know it's been in development for a while when we saw those little arrow graphs at one point, but man, it seems like I'm curious what state it ships in, I guess.
Right? Like a
new raid
supposed to be in that one.
I was like, I mean, I can only imagine the balance of Strand. So because we've got a new subclass, we're going to have new abilities. Not so excited about the Titan. Here's another set of fists.
So
like,
stupid.
Yeah. I mean, the rope dart thing that the hunters get, by far the coolest one.
Yeah.
Like that
so
thing
obvious.
looks.
They also have the best diversity. They've got like a bow, a gun, some knives. Now they've got a rope dart. I feel like they get a pretty good variety. And how many Titan supers are, you know, I punch you?
A Titan is a barbarian or a knight. That's all we get to be. We get to punch, or we get to sword, or we get to shield. That's our world.
We get the hammer, so we get to be Thor sometimes.
Okay.
I mean, that's still the coolest super that we have, even though it's not particularly good.
Yeah, I mean, Warlocks, you got lightning fingers, you got Kamehameha, you got throwing solar swords, you've got a giant Nova Bomb, and then they have the best Stasis super, I'm pretty sure in my mind. Like the Shadebinder is insane.
That thing is toxic in PvP.
Oh yeah. So it was like, we're going to have the balancing and understanding of a brand new subclass. We're going to have a grappling hook. Obviously. Now, here's a question. Do you think we're going to get Strand weapons outside of, say, like one random exotic? Or do you think
Yes.
you think we're going to get the green weapon finally? Like,
I think they'll phase them in. So
okay.
there might be a small amount in the first season, but I think it's inevitable that we have 3 elements at the top and 3 elements in the middle. I think that's like inevitable.
Yeah, it feels like they're going to be there. And then also, well, I guess that would be what kinetic, stasis, and strain, and the last one kind of settles it all. That makes sense.
Probably. Yeah.
And then recently they were saying like we've got Volt Shot, which is just a beast. We've got Incandescent, which definitely puts in some work, but not quite as good in my opinion. But still solid because you can proc it a lot. Void doesn't quite have that. Like Repulsor Brace just isn't quite there. And then on the Firing Range podcast, they got an interview with one of the weapons directors, and they said for Void that they are looking at probably doing some type of Void perk, it seems like. So probably like an intrinsic volatile type thing, I would imagine. We've got Headstone. So then I guess we're just going to have to learn all about Strand when we get into Lightfall. But I mean, that is a lot to put into a 12-month development window. So I will be very curious to see what comes
Especially
out.
working remotely. And
yeah, I know some. I don't know if they're in the office or not, but I know they do a lot remote, or they're capable of doing a lot remote.
And the quality of the content that they've been putting out for the past year with the Witch Queen, excluding that. I don't know. I'm a little nervous about it. I'm about as nervous about it as I am of Starfield, if I'm being honest.
I mean, I would probably say I'm more nervous about Starfield. I think I know what we're going to get with Lightfall. Raid, 8 missions, new destination, Neomuna. Neomuna looks cool. I'm honestly looking forward to the like palette cleansing, completely neon, like feels like it is going to be the most distinct destination because it really wasn't affected by the collapse. Like everything around us is generally dead, dying, or not really too alive. And this is going to be a lot more vibrant. So I'll just be kind of curious for the palette switch. But, we'll probably get a couple Crucible.
Doesn't do it for me.
No?
Yeah, remember I told you in the initial reveal, it felt super like retro futurist in a bad way, and that I think that it sort of mismatches the theme of Lightfall to me. I mean, this is supposed to be the penultimate chapter, and instead of being like dark in tone, it's like we're kind of messing around in this cool city and doing like a Tron adventure, and I'm sort of still like, I hope it's a red herring. I hope there's a dreaming city to this expansion, but I just don't think they're.
Oh no, I
would
no
yeah,
more.
I
I would no
there's any
longer expect
chance.
one of those. Yeah.
Exactly. I think with their current team and how fast they're chugging things out, I don't think there's any chance we get something like that. So I'm just nervous, man. I'm like, dude, you have 1 year to tie this all off, I mean, to finish off your Darkness and Light saga.
Yeah.
And I just don't. I'm nervous about how the things they're choosing to do before sticking that landing, because we could, based off of the Game Awards trailer that we got.
Yeah.
They showed the new art, and they kind of showed their hand a little bit with the Witness being right in the center next to Callus as like the main bad guy. Did you notice that in the trailer? It's like Callus on one side. It has like, the Guardians in the front and the location and some of the new characters, and then the way back in big art is like Callus, and then on the other half it's the Witness. And so I was thinking like, okay, so it's not going to just be like a side story about Callus. Like we're going to get to see the Witness in some way in this expansion. That's what I took away from it, because it sort of it shows them. Kind of
I feel like if the final shape is going to be, it has to be focused around the Witness. Like that. If not, 100%. Then what the hell are we doing?
And the Traveler.
Yeah, Witness and Traveler, kind of those two coming ahead, and then all of the the Avengers that line up on either side of the equation next to them. But I do feel like we've got to start getting more dialogue, more story. Maybe like this is where I want to see more of, not specifically Red War campaign, but I want to see the cinematics on the other side of the equation. Like we get ours with like Zavala and Anna and Mara, and we get to talk with Caiatl, and we get those. But this is the point where we need to see cinematics between the Witness, and there it looks like there's one little cinematic where Callus is going into his little bath, and the Witness is kind of there. But we need to see more from the other side. Because right now I know the Witness has like, the smoke head of all the things, and he's got his, all the planets and stuff that he's got, but we don't know him much because we've had time to develop Callus. We've had time to develop Savathun. I feel like I know more about Xivu or Wrath right now than I know about Witness. And if Witness is going to be the ultimate finale, we need to start having some dialogue, seeing more behind the scenes of what's going on with him to understand it's not just the gardener and the winnower and be like, oh, final clash, yay. It's like I need some build up there, and hopefully that does start in Lightfall. I'm
Yeah.
with you there.
It's also kind of ironic that we know nothing about the Witness because they're probably the oldest character. I mean, we've been hearing about how the darkness controls everything since the first expansion, first campaign,
Yeah.
Vanilla Destiny, and it's just at some point I feel like there has to be payoff, and I'm really hopeful that they'll use their time wisely to build up that character, not just in Lightfall, but in the year that follows, so that we
Yeah.
actually get something. But they have to stick the landing, and if they're going to release the final shape a year after Lightfall, that's a lot to ask, man.
I mean,
That's a
it
lot.
sounds like a lot. Like, I don't know of another
Yeah.
company that's putting out, and that's the thing. It's like we joke about $10 seasons and what they're worth, and it's like I don't know whether there's not really a great live service that survives, and now they're on this like 3 months cycle where we're getting a dungeon or a refurbished raid, and then like weekly story campaigns, and we're getting like activities and armor and weapon. Like, I will say one thing, but it's like we get 10, 15, 20 weapons in Destiny that all sound and feel unique. Like, I mean, yeah, maybe a 4-burst pulse rifle, but it still sounds different, has slightly like we get all of those things in a season, so they're building all of that stuff on each side, and somehow, yeah, we're gonna get an expansion back to back in annual. It feels like a lot. It really, really does. I don't know. It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Well, this week
We'll
was
see.
definitely a good week, though. I will say they have
Yeah.
continued to hit their stride. This season's pacing has been kind of on fire. So week 1, we got the 2 heist battlegrounds on the moon in Europa. Last week, we got the Mars heist battleground introduced, and we also got the dungeon last week.
Dungeon, yeah.
Or no, dungeon was week 1. Actually, it's been around for a
No,
little
it was
bit.
last week.
It was like 4 days in. I know because I like crammed for it. So it was like
Oh,
we
right. It was
didn't
that
talk.
Friday.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah. And then this week we got an exotic mission, which we'll talk about a little bit later. We got a new exotic weapon that we're going to be kind of building out over time. Got some kind of Metroid secrets, kind of feeling like the Shattered Throne or Shattered Realm or whatever that thing's called again. But the first thing I want to talk about, because we didn't get to go deep on it last time with you, was the dungeon. So Spire of the Watcher, we kind of were vague and danced around ideas and stuff. Hopefully we didn't spoil too much for you, but I know you said I think you've kind of played all the content now. So first I want to dive into kind of a deep dive on the dungeon, like starting out with just the pieces, the mechanics, and just go through it piece by piece.
Yeah. So I've done the dungeon 4 times now.
Nice.
So I've played it a lot. And the first time most of it was by myself. I just sort of ran through it slowly. I figured stuff out. My thoughts are, it's not amazing. There's nothing like hugely surprising or revolutionary about it. And it also very notably ignores my advice on making the Vex all about time travel shenanigans.
Yep.
Doesn't do any of that stuff, which makes me very upset because that's the whole point of that mob, you idiots. But I do like that I'm not dunking balls or standing on plates.
Yeah.
Instead, I'm a repairman on Mars. That's kind of cool. Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it. The first boss, there's 2 bosses, right? The first boss being basically an exact clone of the boss from Shadowkeep, what's the Garden of Salvation, is a little odd. And it's also especially weird that they didn't even bother replacing the animation of the harpy eating the Minotaur. Did you notice that?
Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah,
Same.
they kept the same exact animation, which I was like, really? Like, didn't even like you could have just removed the Minotaur, right? Or yeah, it's sort of odd.
Yeah.
But it's cool. We finally have a boss that's one of these chicken walkers, which is cool. Huge pain in the ass, by the way.
Yeah.
Huge pain in the ass.
Exactly kind of how I figured one of those was going to play out. Pain in the butt.
I'm waiting for my drop for the bow so that I can do it on master. I don't want to do the master difficulty until I'm earning the catalyst, so I'm waiting on that. Yeah, shout out to Ducky and Buddha for helping me with runs right before the show, who are I think in the comments right now. And shout out to my buddy Brandon, who helped me with the final encounter on my first run. We two-manned it because I was doing it by myself up until that point. And then I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this at 15. I think I was 1578.
Oh, yeah, a
during that
little low
fight.
there, a little low.
I was a little low. So I brought him in and we did it together. And I played more conservatively. But yeah, doing that, I'm surprised I got that far with 1578. I was like a
Yeah, it
good
was like
10
that final
or more
room's
light below
1590,
the entire.
so that yeah, that
Yeah,
one.
it was. Yeah. So I was like, I think I might need some help on this one. So he came in and helped me with it. It was cool.
Nice.
But yeah, I give it a 7. Good, not great.
Okay.
That's how I would review the dungeon. It was good. It's cool. I like the armor a lot. I don't have the full set. Importantly, I'm missing the helmet for any of my characters, which makes me mad.
Oh
But
yeah, I'm still missing cowboy hat. I got every other
yeah, I don't
piece,
have
no
any.
cowboy hat.
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't have a cowboy hat on any of my characters. And I want to get the bow. Which, by the way, don't tell me what the bow does. I have no idea. I've just
Okay.
heard there's a bow exotic, but I don't know what it does or anything like that. So
Well,
I'm
then
excited.
enjoy that surprise,
figure
and,
it out.
or if it gets spoiled for you later on.
Yeah, I'm hoping it doesn't. But there's only that's the only exotic that was added that's missable this season, right? Like the
Yeah,
one from the dungeon?
the new one from
There's
the
there's
exotic
no armor.
quests.
There's no armor
No
for
armor,
the
nope.
no
And then the
armor, yeah.
exotic quest is just complete the thing and craft it. So we'll get to that here in a bit. Quick shout out real quick to Necromancer Zale. Two super chats, one for $20. Thanks for the great videos. Happy holidays to everybody, of course. And then he was listing his games where Atomic Heart, Dead Island 2, which I forgot about, Dead Space Remake, which if I can get to Callisto, it'd be funny to play those back to
I
back.
hear that's bad, by the way.
Dead Space Remake?
Some people at IGN have previewed it, and they were like, so
I'll be curious which one actually wins then, because you got Callisto, which was like kind of a buggy mess on Steam, and then they fixed. I heard like a number was in the wrong spot, and then they released like a patch to update that. I'll be curious how Callisto and Dead Space Remake come out. It's like, because if neither of those land, horror games are off the menu for a little while. It feels like, which sucks because I kind of enjoy a good one every so often. Diablo 4, Lightfall, Redfall, Starfield. Redfall has done nothing to sell me on, by the way. Redfall,
I'm excited for that one.
I really enjoyed, like, Deathloop was good, and I've always heard what are their, like, the main first two that they're known for? Dishonored.
Oh, you haven't played Dishonored?
No, I haven't played Dishonored.
Oh my god.
I've always like, I mean, a lot of peers I've heard are just rave about that one. If there's some, like, I'm guessing there's some room or something that sounds like a kaleidoscope or whatever. There's some cool stuff it sounds like. So it's like, but again, Redfall hasn't just sold me yet. I gotta see it, so we'll have to see.
I'm excited for that one because I like its attitude. I like that we're not fighting zombies. I was waiting for there to be zombies in that game, and instead it's vampires, which I'm relieved at the break from us fighting zombies in these open world co-op. And then it's a co-op game with looting and shooting, and I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
You have my interest.
I feel like
so
it will, yeah, as long as it doesn't come out, February 27th, maybe I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
There's no date on that one yet, though.
I don't think there's any chance. It already got delayed. It'll probably be like fall of next year.
I still feel like Starfield's going to be like holiday next year, and we'll find out.
I think you're probably right. Although Bethesda it is in a habit of
short window,
they like show their games. They do like blowout showcases like 3 months before they launch. That's like their move. So I could see them doing that.
Yeah, but back to the dungeon. So yeah, first encounters kind of like teach you the mechanics, as you said, of being an electrician. I did learn like the final connection points, like the one like when you can see when you walk up to kind of the old West town that's kind of set up there, where all the wires, all the ending points. If you prep every wire but don't shoot the ending points, you'll never spawn a supplicant. Because if you connect the wire like start to finish, you're like, okay, I got this sequence done and it's all blue start to finish, you'll spawn supplicants. But if you just connect all four in the end, like you get everything prepped and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, you end the encounter and you never see a supplicant. So makes that encounter a little easier.
Nice.
Hold on. You trying to mess with the podcast here?
He hit me up. He was like, need a third? I was like, oh. I was trying to figure out how to add him to the call without.
Here. Hold, please. This is going to get interesting.
Somebody in the comments is talking about Blacktail, which I previewed like 6 months ago. Super interesting game that is like an origin story for Baba Yaga, and you play a witch, and it's got super weird art and creepy characters, and it's very surrealist, and you make like decisions on whether Baba Yaga is just a misunderstood teen or if she's actually an evil person. Super cool game. So who is that said that in the comments? Talking about that game? Enclave? Good taste in games, man. I'm glad that there's people in the comments who play weird stuff. Good to see that.
Indeed. Well, hello, sir.
Hello.
Cog looks pale.
I see you guys were missing one, and I just couldn't help myself.
Oh man. Well, Cog is going to be sad he missed out on this episode now.
He should be.
Snooze, you lose, buddy.
He should be. Enjoy your
he's taking
vacation,
he's taking a much needed break. He's kind of overdoing it recently. So, all right, let me adjust some audio for Teddy here because I had him too high
Work
from a
until
previous
you die.
time.
That's what I say.
You're good. I'll turn you down. Apparently, I had you cranked from before, but
me,
Teddy, I think I just sent you a random invite. Don't worry about that. Too much crap. So,
oh,
I don't even know what that invite was to. So don't worry about it. Just ignore it in case it was something important. Okay. In case you guys don't know, friend of the show and definite friend of Travis as well. The trying to figure out how to phrase this one. The ultimate IGN employee yet contractor who gets his special workout situation. He has joined us. So Teasing Teddy, we've had him on the show before. Amazing guest. Always love your takes on it. We're gonna make this a 3-man show now. So glad we worked this one out. And how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well. I just got back from a trip, and I feel very well rested for the first time in years.
Wow, that's good. Where was it? A work trip that you had to?
He was in Japan.
I was
just hanging out.
And,
oh man!
And I just went for fun, just by myself for 6 days, and yeah, it was quite fun.
Nice. Well, always get a little. I mean, that's why Cog is taking a break. He needed to unplug and rest. So same situation. Glad you got a chance to do that for you as well. Travis over there shaking his head. Every so often you do need to rest. Like he's like, no rest for the weary. But
disagree.
No, Travis wants to work till he dies.
True.
I mean, that
everyone should.
Wrong.
Live.
Well,
I'm in the same boat typically. It's just, I have to recharge a little. Pandemic.
Sometimes.
Have you been to Japan for work? Like, did you go there for TGS?
No. I always try, but they never. I've never been
approved.
That's a tough trip to get, even if you're like in.
I've
been
circle. There thrice and never for editorial coverage. I was there for like advertising work when I worked for IGN's parent company. So
yeah, I've been there. This was my second trip.
Nice.
And it was nice and easy, slow, and
no. I saw your posts. Looked like you were having a gay old time. Some of us were getting work done. So
yeah, if I have any inclination of how Teddy works, he was already done with all of his stuff, and he got to do that because he earned it, and probably worked his ass off before he left. So that's my hunch.
Yes.
Selling people $1,500 PlayStation 5s. That's how he funded the trip. I'm just kidding.
I will say you're very much okay. Christopher Sharp is back with the $200 super chat. Damn, 2 in a row, man. You are Merry Christmas, y'all. Thank you for the Texas nod there. But thank you very much. We established whoever was speaking gets to hold on to that one. So timing was apparently
Merry Christmas on the 5th night of Hanukkah. You infidel. Christopher Sharp, you are dangerously close to getting your own emoji in the YouTube channel.
I'm gonna have to do something there.
Can we do like a? Can we get like a somebody make a Christopher Sharp holding a bag of money? maybe like smoking a cigar and having a top hat. I want a Christopher
He's got
Sharp
the
YouTube
Hugh Hefner robe on.
Yeah, slippers. Maybe a gold chain. I don't know. What's cool.
We just need a giant animated thing of him like sitting by a fire, in the robe and everything. Man, thank you very much for the holiday love and support there. That is absolutely amazing. Thank you very much. I got to shout out the big ones and small ones alike. But Yeah, lots of generosity from you in the last week or so. So crazy.
Christopher Sharp, that is, you just gave to Ebontis how much money I made from IGN this year. I mean, that's some, those are big bucks right there. That's some real money.
It's
damn.
it's honest work, Travis.
Yeah,
it's a thankless job. We
Yeah.
know.
Let's see, 25 reviews. How much would they have been paying me per review for
Not
like
enough.
$200? It's like
$8. $8 a review.
That would be.
Somebody's like, San Francisco rent must be low these days. Yeah, exactly the opposite. Well, quick. I don't know if you were listening beforehand or whatever. But what? Okay, 2 questions. One, because I know you mentioned a $1,500 PS5 or whatever. Did you see the guy who does like DIY who made like the razor thin water cooled PS5? Did you see that one?
I haven't seen that one specifically, but I have seen people do like smaller form factor versions of it. And yeah, I'm sure Sony will figure this out, but obviously the modding community is a lot better at. As a modder, I always say the modding community will fix it. Anytime a game studio screws up on something or a product or some kind, the modding community fixes it. That's just how it works.
But that one that I saw
is too big. It's too big.
But like the one I saw, it is like, it might be like an inch tall. It is insanely like well crafted and clean. It's just like, it is a very clean box setup. So I'll have to find it and send it to you because it's just, it's a well done one for sure.
I don't want to make this like an Xbox PlayStation thing, but it just really goes to show like the engineering that Xbox put into the Series X and even the Series S too, because effectively they're the same. Well, the Series X is effectively the same hardware, and it's just much smaller. And the way they designed it and their cooling form factor is just better, and it runs cooler too. So
still ugly though.
It is. I mean, they're both ugly.
They're both hideous.
I'm not going to.
They're both hideous. I mean, if I'm picking which one's more hideous, PS5 because it's so hideous that I don't even want to keep it on my mantle because it doesn't go with anything else. But they're both very ugly machines. I mean, making me miss the 360 days.
Yeah, I when Dbrand released their first wave of
I've got black panels on mine.
The illegal ones that are not rounded. I have those.
Nice.
And I have them sideways. I have the console sideways because it just looks so ugly. It basically just blends into my TV stand because I hate looking at it.
Wow.
But great console, just it looks bad.
Yeah. No, the other question I was going to ask you, first few months of the year, what games are you looking forward to, excited, anxious about, anything that's just like you're watching in the first couple of months?
There was something Forspoken. I got to actually preview the game at Square Enix right before I went to Japan. I can't say anything more than that, but you can play the demo and leave it at that. Yep. But I'm looking forward to that game.
Okay.
Cool. And obviously Nightfall. Yep. But I am playing a little catch up this holiday season too on some games. I'm gonna finally finish Final Fantasy VII Remake.
I still haven't played that.
Yeah, I got to basically the end, and then my save got deleted. Or no, it didn't get deleted. I'm sorry. I had to transfer to the PS5 version, and it doesn't work through PSN. It's like an in-game transfer, and it didn't work for some reason. So I gave up, and then I had to record the first mission or the first opening for work, and after replaying it, I was like, I definitely need to do this again. So
Teddy gave up on trying to figure out a technical thing. That's how you know you effed up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if he didn't figure it out, you made it too hard.
So they made it. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but they made it work basically like the way Minecraft worked for 360 to Xbox One, where you like uploaded your save on the old console and then you downloaded it onto the new console.
Sounds right. Yeah.
It just like wouldn't sync for me for some reason, and maybe they fixed it. I haven't tried, but I already gave up. I was like, this is stupid. Why didn't you just let me upload it to PlayStation Now?
Is that a GameCube behind you, by the way?
It is, yeah. That's my OG GameCube from when I was a kid. Fully modded.
Yeah, I can't tell.
Let's go to your dorm, bro. Play some GameCube.
I mean, you probably can't see it, but like down there, I've got like 8 consoles that are all hooked up to the same Switch, and it's all hooked up to the TV and my Capture PC, which it's down there.
We get it. You're a nerd.
Yeah, I know. There's another shoe rack back there with another 8 consoles. I haven't actually set that one up yet. Basically, I have the ability to press a button on a console and boot up any game within like 60 seconds.
Nice.
It's for work.
What's your electrical bill like?
It's not that bad.
Well, they're not all running at the same time.
Yeah, they're not running at the same time, and everything's on a smart plug too. So I just I just yell the Google command for turn on whatever smart plug is associated with each console, and yeah, it's fine. Any internet capable console syncs time anyway when it connects to the internet, so it doesn't matter. And old consoles don't even have the clock on them, or if they do, it doesn't matter. Like the GameCube, who cares?
Anything else coming up in the future you're looking forward to besides, of course, Lightfall and Forspoken?
I mean, Starfield. I heard you guys talking about that right before I joined, but I think that's like a end of year game.
Probably
feels like.
Yeah, I don't think it's coming out wherever they said. Unironically, I'm actually pretty happy with the DLC for Mario Kart 8. I would play it regardless of whether I had to do it for work or not.
Of course you would. Yeah, I mean, you do have the framed image. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, but I think they've actually been doing a pretty good job with it, especially this last one. The cadence is a little weird on the release, and it's also kind of like all right, it's here now. Like they're not really hyping it up or anything, but
I mean,
those have been pretty fun.
I was gonna say for Mario Kart 8, I think they've given it as much life as they possibly can, because there's no point in them releasing anything else until they do a new console, because it's not gonna look or run or have much different. There's no point in them building an entire new game when at some point their next hardware has to eventually release, and that's just gonna be an early one for that.
Not that the Wii U like sold really well, but Mario Kart 8 had like a ridiculous attach rate. It was like 60 or 70% on that console. And then I think up until recently, Mario Kart 8 was the highest attach rate for the Switch until Animal Crossing, I think, dethroned it. Or maybe it was Pokemon. I'm not the reason.
Either of those could have, I believe that.
Yeah, one of them finally dethroned it, but yeah, that game, I mean, the DLC basically doubles the amount of courses. Granted, most of them are like remakes from previous games, but that's fine because they did a lot of stuff. I think what they did mechanically for that game is probably the best Mario Kart, and that's probably why they decided not to make a new one. Because Nintendo's whole shtick is like, if you're gonna make a new game, we in the West we call it a gimmick, but for them it's like a mechanic. Like they want a core idea and they build the game around it. And I think they probably just couldn't think of a good mechanic, like a new mechanic that would reinvent Mario Kart, and so they just said, screw it, we'll just make new courses or remake courses because the game is selling well enough anyway. And the online community is still really vibrant too, which is a good sign, because typically Nintendo online games just they tank, except for Splatoon. That's like the one exception. They tank immediately. So yeah, other than that, not really. I mean, honestly, I haven't been playing a lot of games, even Destiny. Like I'm behind on Destiny for a week because I was gone. And oh, bye Travis.
I wonder. Coming back, trying to come back.
And yeah, so not too much. Honestly, I'm trying not to like play a lot of games.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to relax and get my life together a little bit. New year, you know.
It's good to unplug every so often. I mean, I've been trying to get more consistent into some cardio just because it's cold, and like a knee's been a little weird. So actually, a while back, like a buddy had a rowing machine, but ended up getting like a Peloton. So it was like, we're like, hey, we'll take your rowing, because it's like a concept too. It's a good rowing machine. So I have one of those sitting in my house. I've just been kicking my butt with that for a little while, and still trying to lift a little bit at home since our rec center, our community center, is like under renovation right now. So nice. Yeah, I mean, kind of a nice, I mean, it's like, I'm eating way too many Christmas cookies, of course, so I'm trying to basically balance the equation a little bit, but overall it's it's kind of a good time to reset. But yeah, the unplug seems like a common theme right now for a lot of people.
Never unplug.
I will say the one game
I'm never fully unplugged.
Well, no, are you kidding? Neither am I. No, the one thing I will say, I'm trying to see if my wife and I can like set aside some time so we can finish Stackboy, because we got about 2/3 through it. If I know I think there's about 5 worlds or something like that ish, and we got through. So we were playing co-op through most of the whole thing. So just fun game to go through. And Christopher Sharp. Seriously, sir.
Are you serious?
Monopoly, dude.
This legend.
PS5 and kids fighting for the controller right now. But I don't even know what's happening. Christopher Sharp. The generosity, though, this is ridiculous. Wow. Thank you again for another $200 super chat. That is 2 in the same podcast, and last week was $300. So you're up to a lot of donations there, sir. Thank you.
We need like a song, a Christopher Sharp song.
We've got donations. They're from Chris Sharp. I got nothing. I don't know where I was going with that.
We need some sort of song to sing so that one comes in. We all just do the We all do the jig together. The jingle.
You need a jingle. That's,
we need a super chat jingle. Okay, you work on the super chat jingle.
I'm gonna
Christopher Sharp is gonna make us come up with a super chat jingle. This is gonna be fun.
This has been great. Christopher Sharp, you're a legend.
Seriously,
I'm not even getting that money, and I feel loved. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's twice as much as I made at IGN this year. I mean, that's a lot of money. That's double.
Okay, I will say that's probably not true, just so people are not like questioning IGN there too much. But yes.
Wait, they paid you, Travis?
Yeah. Wait, what?
Eddie's over there just contracting for what is it? Oh God, what do they used to? I'm trying to think.
By the way, in case that wasn't obvious.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I was like, you're both paid totally fine. Yeah. But no, I'm trying to think. What would they used to for influences? Just like awareness, or they would just pay you in. I'm trying to think of the right word. Exposure. Thank you.
Exposure.
Pay you in exposure. Yeah, that's what I was joking. I was trying to think of that word. So,
Christopher Sharp, if you keep giving us super chats like that, we're gonna have to give you like shares in the
shares in the Last Word podcast.
Yeah, you're gonna be like a 12% shareholder.
Yeah, 5% shareholder every time he donates. It just creeps up another percent. All of a sudden, he owns the podcast, and we report to him every week. So.
Look at me. I'm the podcast owner now.
Look at me.
Look at me. I'm the podcast.
I am the last word now.
Well, legend aside, how much have you played with regards to Destiny? We were talking about the dungeon. I don't know if you've had a chance to even experience that yet, or we'll get to the exotic quest next. But where are you? Have you done the dungeon? Have you experienced it?
Yes. So the first week I played. I left for Japan. Monday afternoon, the first week. So I was able to play during the week, and I got most stuff done. And then I didn't play all the second week except for Monday. I got back to my house like Monday afternoon, so I was able to just kind of do my pinnacles, and I didn't really do the story stuff until this week. I'm mostly caught up now. I just have to do like random challenges. So I did do the dungeon. I've done it a few times now, nice. So I've got a better baseline of it. Week one, I just did it once and was like, whatever. I like it. It's a little short, I think, but that's fine. I do think it's a lot easier than the previous dungeons, since the mechanics, the wires don't change. They're static. I would have liked to see it like week to week or even every run, the positions change, but maybe that was too hard to implement, or I don't know. I kind of feel that some of the feedback from Caiatl from Duality was that the mechanic was a little confusing and a little too hard, and seeing as people are actually paying $10 for this, I think they took that feedback and were like, let's just make a much more straightforward mechanic. And so I think it works. Like by the end, it feels kind of fun to, once you kind of know the patterns, it flows a lot better. And yeah, overall, I got the loot's cool. I'm happy that none of the weapons are craftable. I think that was just a little too much. There's just too much stuff going on with the crafting. Yeah, and yeah, I think crafting is the way of the future for Destiny, but I think they need to rethink how you go about obtaining the gun. It's too monotonous, and they've shown with Tears of Eternity and now Deepstone that the drop rate for these is just absurdly low, and obviously that's by design to get you to keep playing it, but it just seems kind of silly that we're kind of doing this monotonous grind when realistically, like, you don't unless you're doing a day one raid and you're going for worlds first, you don't need a crafted weapon. There's nothing in the game where an equivalent, similar or equal gun, non-crafted would the crafted gun isn't going to outdo that. So I'm happy that there's no crafted guns in this dungeon. Looking at you, Fixed Odds and Epicurean, stupid guns that I sold my soul for. But yeah, overall, I like it. I love the Rasputin stuff. That's actually one of my favorite motifs in Destiny, and so I'm really happy that we're revisiting it. I'm a little bummed the season's short. The secret mission is awesome. I just did it last night. Nice. I'm curious if that will go away at the end of the season.
Okay,
or if that will.
I mean, I guess we can jump into that as well as kind of an idea before we actually talk about the mission. Is whether it's repeated content or not. Dungeons do tend to stick around. Like this one will probably have its little place on the Enclave. Spire is going to have a spot for its rotation. Dungeon rotations aren't going anywhere. You paid for them, that kind of thing. The Helm tends to get like just a clean sweep with an expansion. And yeah, we're going exotic mission, whole bunch of secrets, kind of weekly Metroidvania situation. gone in 10 weeks? Like, do you guys think it is going to have that short of a life? I'm kind of curious.
Where's the Metroidvania situation? Are you
Just
talking
like
about in
the
this
laser
the exotic
doors and the
quest?
security clearance
Yeah,
stuff inside the exotic quest Operation Seraph Shield.
because you get like increased security permissions or
Yeah, there's
whatever.
in the exo frame, there's like upgrades, but they just seem they don't even have a currency cost. It literally seems just time based. Like we'll probably do something next week for the story that lets us get the next one for the laser doors, and the week after it seems like we're gonna get that. And those also seem tied to the catalyst. Seem to be on very specific steps of the weekly quest. It'll say like step 43 and then step 50 or whatever is when you get the catalyst. So the exotic weapon and its catalyst seem time gated, and so do like the laser doors and security clearance.
Yeah. They should make a exotic quests playlist.
There's so many they could put in there. It would be so good.
Yeah. It would be a goated playlist because that's like all their best
Oh,
content.
that would be so. Yeah, I mean, if you could you imagine Whisper, Presage, 0 Hour, Hawk Moon, which was can't
It
remember
could
the
just
name
be
of that.
it could just be it could just be weekly rotating. Like it doesn't have to be a true playlist. It could just be like
Just one's up this week.
every week there's one up, and you can get the exotic that corresponds to that mission. That'd be sweet. Do it.
Yeah, I sort of
Put it in.
understand why they removed Whisper because Io went away, but I never fully grasped why 0 Hour went away because it was in the tower, which is still there. Like I can see it. Like canonically, Io is in some random void somewhere. Fine, whatever. I can believe that, but I'm literally looking at the old tower every time I load into the game. So
I feel like that had to tie into when they did some behind the scenes like lighting engine switch, because I feel like they've done that with some of the PvP maps as well. They've mentioned that like we occasionally get a couple of those back when they're, low on the priority list but make it through. I feel like stuff that was not a planet just wasn't prioritized to be put in the new engine and just hasn't been there. But I mean, yeah, Presage is fantastic mission. That's not there anymore. I mean, there's a lot that's not there that could I would love to see that rotate list through, whether it's even if it's just a Pinnacle. I don't care. Just the fact that people would get to experience them, I think would be nice. So do you guys think it's gone in 10 weeks? Give me a yay or nay.
Yeah. Yes.
I think it's gone because
Okay.
they did that with Shattered Realm for Season of the Lost. Now, granted, that season was like 5 months, but those were like hugely developed areas, all 3 of them that had a lot of different assets and things that were just used for that area, just like this mission, and those went away too.
Like the Shattered Realms, is that what you said?
Yeah, Shattered Realms. And so I think it's the same thing, which is unfortunate if that is the case, but they haven't actually said so.
Well, that's what kind of gets into, and we haven't said it yet, but it's like some of this is reused assets. I mean, we have the orbital station, we have a spacewalk situation, which you can almost go back to the very beginning of the spacewalk. I was exploring, I played with Jarv for just a little bit, and he was like, hey, let's go see what's down here. And we jumped almost all the way back to the start of the DSC jumping puzzle. So if you want to get a little lost, there's nothing back there. But yeah, it's like a lot of that stuff is still there. So that's when it comes to the question of, here's an exotic mission with reused assets, not completely, but some. But it is gone in 10 weeks. So that's where it kind of gets to this debate of when you get something like this, but it has a short window, do the developers get the option to reuse other things to make things happen a little bit quicker? Are you guys okay with that idea that kind of a cool mission, but some reuse stuff, but it has a short life? Or do you guys feel, this still doesn't, do you feel it's okay or not? I guess that's a better way to start.
I think it's okay. Yeah, to me, it's not like super special because you can still do the Deep Stone Crypt raid, and it has pretty much everything that's in this. It's just sort of a different format and flow to it. But yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, if you're trying to churn out content as quickly as possible, it makes sense to reach back into your pool, grab mechanics you already created, setting you already created, all the same assets, and kind of throw together some new activity, and then let people enjoy it for a little bit, and then get rid of it to clear the way for something new. My preference, of course, would be that it's brand new content, never before seen, new mechanics, all that stuff. But that's hard to do, especially on a if you're only going to have it in the game for 10 weeks. So I think it's probably a good compromise solution, and I enjoyed it. I ran through it on my own this week. I have to say, I don't really understand the whole, hey, you get the exotic, now craft the exotic thing. That was super perplexing to me. It was like,
Yeah, I ended up
wait,
with two. That was
but I have the exotic. Why am I crafting it? I don't really understand what the purpose of that is.
yeah. I
get
feel
that
like
we're gonna
that
be
was almost like
upgrading
a
it.
weird bug in the drop because yeah, it's like I
Yeah.
had two, and then you go
Yeah,
like
you
walk
get
around the corner of the
one.
relic and talk to it, and you're done. But it's like, why do I have two? And they're both crafted
Yeah.
ish.
It wasn't. I get that we're gonna be reshaping it later, but I don't get why we had to shape it initially.
You didn't have to. You could just reshape it, but it wasn't clear on that.
Oh,
So like I reshaped mine
Oh,
because
the
once you extract the pattern, you just reshape it, and that counts as
the quest
Okay.
said shape the weapon.
Yeah.
So I
Oh,
actually
well.
just
More
the quest text said shape the weapon because I was like,
That's-
really? I'm not gonna reshape it. I'm gonna shape it. So then I shaped it, and then it was like, cool, good, you did it. You got
okay.
you got the weapon, and then I had two of them. And
That
so, yeah, it
makes
was
more
weird.
sense if it was just worded poorly or something like that. So
It wasn't poorly, it was wrong. It
yeah,
should have said reshape. It said
yeah,
shape.
reshape
for
the
sure.
weapon and
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the mission in of itself. Honestly, I would like to see it stay because if Deep Stone Crypt is going to be in the rotation still, they should go plop that thing onto the Europa map. Kind of, I don't know if they give you the buff or just make lasers not hurt too bad or make all the lasers timed or something and leave it there because it is basically here's how you do the Deep Stone Crypt raid mechanics. So you understand it's like an introduction to DSC. So I think it should stay just for an information of how to do the raid. Like this is the perfect raid introduction mission. And if it goes away, I'm like,
I did like that. I hope they do that in future like storylines. Like I could imagine like the story for Lightfall introducing mechanics that are going to appear in the raid for Lightfall. I think that would be cool. But the problem with Deepstone Crypt is it's done already. They came up with the explainer mission too late.
yeah, it's
that
2 years
quest is
too
2
late,
years
right?
old
Yeah.
now. So I'm with you. I get the sentiment of it, but I feel like it doesn't really make sense now, and they can get rid of it. It was also weird I did that raid 82 times to get the
Yeah, I knew
exotic,
you weren't
so
going to be so thrilled.
my relationship with that is not super positive. So, on one hand, it was like, okay, cool, I'm coming back. But on the other hand, I was like, oh god damn, I did not want to have to go back and gain the scanner ability again. But it was cool. God, they really reused the assets though. Boss from Beyond Light, right? It was one of the bounty hunts that you kill.
Oh yeah, it's
Is the main guy,
one who kind
right?
of the final one who kind of the post.
I will say it was cool that we surrendered. I thought that was all super
Yeah,
fun and
that
interesting.
was kind of unique.
Getting kidnapped by pirates.
When you replay, I haven't not had dialogue though outside of the first run through, so I don't know if that's a weird little like I had it the first time and I go back and it's just like silence the whole time. So when you're going through and you surrender and then you go in there and you're hanging out with your weapons for a second, it was like, hey, I'm just getting the transmat coordinates. You'll have your weapons in a couple seconds. Nothing. So hopefully that gets fixed. You actually get a hearing of what's going on. But yeah, it's like I like the idea of explaining raid mechanics, but then if you make this mission and don't keep it, that's going to be kind of unfortunate because they basically made a raid tutorial. It's like Preservation for Vow of the Disciple, but it's just if it goes, it should just move. That's my vote. If they get the chance, they should just move it.
Give us an exotic mission playlist, Bungie. That'd be super cool.
Yeah, I feel like that would be a nice thing to have. But yeah, overall, I mean, not crazy difficult. I did the solo flawless for the Triumph on Legend, so I just knocked out like 5 triumphs at the same time. It's not that bad. It's 1580. Now, I will say, this brings up a completely different discussion. On Legend difficulty, it might be called Metal, I think, because it's messing with your light level. Basically, it's contest. It says 1580 in your contest at 1580 on Legend. And then recently with the Battlegrounds for Heist Battlegrounds, it's like, hey, everything is 5 power levels above where you are, so it tends to feel kind of difficult. Do you guys feel this is them kind of testing and feeling out the waters to mess with the power level structure with Lightfall? Because the reason I say that is because I feel with each expansion we get a large systems level change. Whether it's crafting, then we got like the subclasses, whether it's, we got random rolls with Forsaken, we got champions with Shadowkeep, Beyond Light with Stasis obviously was pretty big. But I was like, we get some substantial system level change. Do you guys think they actually are going to mess with the light level system in Lightfall? Do you think they're flirting with that with these modifiers, or is it a way to just kind of set their difficulty for the stuff they wanted? Just kind of a way to get around it.
God, I hope they do, but I don't anticipate it. I think it's long overdue. I think people are really sick of the power grind. I know I am. Like, the thing about me is I've never engaged with the power grind because I don't care about Grandmaster Nightfalls, and that's pretty much the one thing that you really have to get to max for. But they should get rid of that. I think they could easily keep the artifact leveling in place if they really care about leveling. I think that's a better system than having to swap out all your armor and weapons every season. But personally, I would be happy with them to increase the power level yearly and then just leave it in between seasons, because the seasonal stuff
I was
is
about
ridiculous.
to say the same thing.
So.
Yeah, it's like,
and I would be okay with them getting rid of the artifact leveling, because it kind of makes the entire, like, what is your power level arbitrary and meaningless, because it's determined by a
how much
seasonal
time you
artifact
put
that
in.
disappears and how much time you put into it. Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
weird. And also some people do that thing where they like run into lost sectors a million times to get their seasonal level to like 400 or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems completely pointless. And I get that they want to create a hamster wheel for the people who want it, but I think the problem is then you make all the people who aren't willing to do it. Well, you make the people who are willing to do it irritated, and the people who aren't willing to do it are less likely to engage with your content because they're just like, it's like an extra barrier of entry. Like, why bother? And the fact that, like, I know people who would be happy to do Grandmaster Nightfalls. I would probably have done more Nightfalls, but the people invite me, and I'm like, well, A, I don't want to do it because those are stupid. But B, even if I did, there's 2 light that I'm missing, because my boots aren't, high enough power. And so it's like, how much time am I going to commit just to play this activity I don't want to do anyway for a seal I don't need and weapons that I'm probably not going to use. So I don't really understand.
Yeah, Grandmasters are a head scratcher to me because they set contests anyway. So whether you're 1595 or 1625, it doesn't matter once you get to the level cap. So it could be a 1550 activity, or they could just say, here is your light, like, set it up as, what would this season be? If you're going to do Grandmasters, you should probably be 1580, make a contest. And yeah, you can go in there at 1580. If you got loadout for it, then cool. If you don't, then it's probably going to be a bit of a struggle, but there's no reason you need to invest the time. Again, we've talked about engagement. We know so many things they set up for engagement matrix. We've actually seen GDC discussions where they have percentages of drop and weekly logins and all those things. They track all of that data. And it seems like quite a few decisions are based around how much engagement a player is going to have. Why do we have a weekly story? Why do we have a weekly thing so often in this game to get people to come back every week? But somebody who can log in and do the weekly story in about an hour, over the course of 7 hours, over 7 weeks, you're not going to be even remotely near anything like a Grandmaster. But again, if people just can't get to it for time, I hope I'm with you. I hope something like that is going to be made more accessible to more people, because if you're just like, hey, if you have a decent loadout, even though you haven't put in as much time, you can access this. Because it's really annoying. It's like also, one day before the season ends, you're like, cool, I can do Grandmasters. On the next day, I can't. And I'm like,
yep. It's also just weird that, like, to me, the barrier of entry to should you be doing Grandmasters is, can you actually complete Grandmasters?
Yeah.
Because that content is extremely inaccessible. You really have to be like a tryhard at Destiny to even do that stuff, or, just playing super heavily into the meta. And so it's like, what is the purpose of the level gate? Anybody doing that activity is already the hardcorest of the hardcore. Like, I don't even do that stuff, and I've got like 8,000 hours in Destiny or whatever. So that kind of weirds me out, to be honest. And also, you could just do like contest mode and make everybody's power arbitrarily 20 below or 10 below or whatever number it is. They don't need to hit a certain level for you to give them that challenge. It's all arbitrary. So It's weird. I didn't want to talk about comp. Maybe I need to do that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit. We'll save that. Save it after we get done with all this. I wanted to ask Teddy, though, where are you at in just kind of the idea of, one, if this thing's going away in 2 weeks, but two, just are these modifiers leading to something maybe for a lightfall change or leveling change?
You're referring to the mission going away?
Well, the mission going away, do you think that's where do you stand on that? And then also now we got the 2 modifiers this season that kind of make most light level tend to be irrelevant.
I hope the mission stays, and I feel like it might because it's in a completely separate area and the assets are already in the game with Deepstone. I kind of agree with everything Travis said. Like, I'm okay with getting missions getting missions that use assets if they're kind of creative with it, and I think this is a really good example of that.
Yep.
We'll see how I feel once I've done it for 10 weeks, and then but overall I enjoyed it. Anyway, the light level stuff, Bungie has a tendency to how do I phrase this? They will introduce I'll call it tech, like a core tech, typically in an expansion. So for example, in Witch Queen, they introduced the idea of the payload. That's like a new tech that they built. And then they used it for other things. They used it for the raid. They used it for PsyOps Battlegrounds. And they used it for last season for the terrible
expeditions. Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to talk about that. So like they'll build the tech out, and then they'll use it in different places throughout the year, and they, because I'm assuming their budgets are so limited with seasons, sometimes they get really creative with how they use existing assets and existing tech, and then sometimes they don't, and typically when they don't, that's the seasons that were like, this kind of isn't fun. So I think and then on the other side of the spectrum, they will, when it's not like a major fundamental change, they will introduce a concept early on, like a season or 2 before the expansion, to sort of gauge how it will work, or maybe get data on it. Not that we're like privy to this at all, because they'll never tell us unless after the fact, which is pretty rare. So I think with this level modification thing, I think it's them kind of feeling out the waters and testing, like, oh, can we make a system, or sort of to validate what they've already been working on, to see if what they have currently for Nightfall is working. They tend to do that too, where they've already created something, but they want to sort of validate that it might work, and so they'll give us like a little sprinkle of the mechanic or tech, and then introduce it in Nightfall. So I do think light leveling is going away, because honestly that's probably the biggest pain point of Destiny, and it's still a holdover from the original game, Taken King more so, because that's where the modern leveling came from.
Yeah.
I think fundamentally Infusion is a flawed system. It always has been from the very beginning, but
I've been
sort of like
messing with that a lot recently. Yeah,
it's a necessary evil in a weird way, because of how the game is structured, and so I think they pigeonholed themselves, and so now they're probably I'm assuming they're trying to get themselves out, if my theory is correct. So I hope that the leveling does go away, and maybe it's just the artifact. Maybe the artifact doesn't involve leveling anymore. I assume it probably will, because they want that carrot, that infinite carrot that you're chasing, because that's how they get their engagement. But yeah, for me, like, I'm just so over getting 10 power a season. I was honestly hoping this season that they were just going to be like, all right, you don't have to level up 10 levels again, because the season's shorter and we're not having as much content and whatever, right? And then I logged in and it's like, all right, here's another 10 levels. Oh, you got to get to plus 15 to do your GMs. And I'm like, I just don't care anymore. Like,
yeah.
I'll get it naturally because I play enough, but I'm not like actively trying to hit max level, because if there isn't a raid, the only thing that matters for max level is the new raid. You'll be able to do a legend dungeon anyway at some point during the season, and even if you're not, you just do it the following season. And master raids, you typically do the season they launch. If you don't, you're kind of like shooting yourself in the foot. So yeah, and GMs are the only thing. But to your point, I've been saying this for years. They already gate me in GMs on my levels, so what's the point of having to make me get to a certain level to be able to then be downgraded while I'm playing the GM? Just let me enter the GM at any level, because Travis nailed it on the head. It's the gate to enter the GM shouldn't be my level. It should be, can I do it?
Yep.
And then just let me do it. But I'm guessing they're probably afraid of player perception of the. I'm sure they have data on, like, if players fail an activity, they quit the game and then don't come back, and I'm assuming that's probably what they're looking at. I don't know for sure.
No, it's like that's actually probably a very interesting thought, but it probably makes perfect sense, because I was like, I hate the concept that is what would hold them back and limit to say, hey, just because we're worried that if you're not like hardcore into this game, you're really invested, you've spent enough time where you finally get into this and you know it's going to be difficult, as opposed to, here's this thing, it pops up like 40 modifiers, and it says, like, in a giant warning box, this is difficult, and it says Grandmaster Nightfall, and you go in and you die and people quit. for one, those people need to suck it up a little bit. I'm sorry, but like if something's that tough and you die, guess what? How many times did I get killed fighting in any of the Elden Ring bosses just because I was like, oh nope, that's it, I'm done. That was
Destiny players just aren't like that though.
If that's their logic though, Teddy. If that's Bungie's logic that
I just want to preface again, this is my theory. This is
I know,
like,
I'm saying that. I'm saying based on your theory.
I see a little bit in there.
Here's my rebuttal to that theory, which I think cannot possibly be true. Because where else anywhere in Destiny are guardrails for new players? Literally anywhere. Go ahead. Story, cutscenes, seasonable, catching up.
I'm not saying the new player experiences are good, but if you were like,
I know.
But if you could solo kick off like a GM at 1550.
Those guardrails don't exist anywhere else, though. Like, even in Crucible, it doesn't let you click one button and then if you're alone in your fire team, do, solo fire team matchmaking. You have to click the small button next to it that is harder to see. And that if you're a new player, there's definitely no way that that's a thing, which is why so many people enter the group playlist. Grandmaster Nightfall, you have to go to a submenu of a submenu and then select a specific setting. And then they could, if they really want to put a guardrail on it, rather than doing an insane level cap that takes a really long time a lot of playing to do it. I never hit it, right? Every season I never hit it because I just don't care enough. You could just require a fire team. That's a huge barrier of entry that keeps people complain all the time about raids and about Trials of Osiris and some of the barriers of entry there because you have to have a full team to play it. And I think that's an easy way to do it too. So I don't think that is their reasoning there. But if it is, God, I mean, that is such a bad reason.
They kind of do this already throughout the game in a smaller scale. And I'll give you two examples. So non-legend content, or master content, I should say, every season doesn't increase in level. So like, for example, King's Fall on normal difficulty is easier this season than it was last season because our baseline power is higher. So if you've been playing even casually, theoretically it should be easier. And that applies to the dungeon as well. And then all master content increases with the season. And so that's for us, right? It's to basically quote unquote give us a challenge. So I think that's sort of their way of balancing it and ensuring that I'll say the casual, but I don't mean that in a condescending way, player has an easy out later on if they've just been playing normally. The second thing, which I totally blanked on, and I'm forgetting what I was going to say, was that they, they like to, never mind. I totally forgot my train of thought.
Yeah, that's right.
But no, okay, right. So I've been racking my brain for a while on this as well, and I've been wondering, it's like, as I said, one day I'm high enough to do a GM, next day when my artifact resets and the Pinnacle grinds up there, I can't. This season specifically, we have 6 weeks where GMs are going to be available, and you literally get to see each one 6 weeks, like for one a week, just because it's such a short season. So for one, it's a short season, as you said. You're like, okay, so maybe this season they won't have to do it, or maybe the Pinnacle won't be as much, but they're stuck in that cycle, so they have to. But again, it is so arbitrary. You have to get plus 15 on your artifact, then you got to do your Pinnacle grind, because it's like plus 25, right, from the power cap. So if it's like 1580, it'll be what, 1605?
Yeah, you need to hit Pinnacle cap and then 15 on the artifact, or
25, which is crazy.
Yeah, you need 25 light basically, or power.
And your gear matters more.
Point. So it's if you're a new light player, I recently had some friends of friends who's picked up the game because everyone's been talking about it, and in fact, actually, they read your review, Travis, for Witch Queen, and that convinced them to pick up everything. And they've been playing, and to our surprise, as veteran players, they literally can't do anything that we can do. So we're like, oh, let's go play the new dungeon. And it's like, oh no, can't play the new dungeon. You got to do the story. Okay, let's do the story. Oh no, can't do that because you got to do this. Like, and so I wouldn't call them guardrails. It's more, I think, of just a limiting factor, because the game does a terrible job of explaining anything to you in terms of mechanics and how it works. But they can't play with us. Like, I'm not even talking a GM or like a high level content. Just like a normal dungeon or even a Nightfall, I don't know about the Nightfall, but I'm assuming it just won't let them enter it. And I guess after a little bit of playing that allows them, but it's just silly to me that that they do that. But my point is that, like, they do have these sort of weird design choices in place that the only reasoning I can think of that they would do that is to basically make sure the perception of a new player, like they don't feel like they're failing, because if they're failing, they're more likely to turn the game off and then not come back. And I'm sure they have that data of the amount of people that just turn the console off and never logged in ever again. And that might be an alarming stat for them, which is why they do what they do sometimes. Again, it's just a theory. I don't know. I don't have the numbers. No one's talked to me about this. But that's how I feel watching the player base sort of, or a non-informed player experience the game versus an informed player.
Yeah, it's like, this is why I think it is such a pain point for everybody, whether it's a veteran player, whether it's a new player. The new player experience needs love, but as I was saying to somebody in chat, I think 8 years into the franchise, when your last, like, Lightfall is coming up, the priority of making the new light experience, they're doing Guardian ranks next year, which is this like kind of progression of how many different things have you done in the game. Something like that's coming. I'll be curious when we see it, how in depth it is, and it kind of gives you an idea of like, hey, you did a Nightfall, okay, now you can do one on a higher difficulty. Hey, here's this Grandmaster thing that might be sitting out there, and there may be steps that kind of guides you to work through. But in general, the story I've heard, you could log in and see 5 different cinematics or just different cinematics of what you're doing, not have a clue where you're at. So like the new player experience is not polished, to say the least. But at this point, I think everybody's just so tired of it's like, okay, you got to hit 1605 this season. It's like, well, what if Travis is in there just grinding comp, having a blast doing comp? Somebody's like, hey, do you want to do a GM? There's actually a pretty good weapon in here for you. I haven't spent enough time stacking all these crazy bounties, so I cannot. And that just, even though I've played 250 hours of comp this season, like I've reset my, Shaxx Crucible rank like 3 times just from all that stuff, but you can't do anything else. I feel like when you said it, there's this weird, like tiny little piece of me that's like, oh my God, I hope it's not that. That I hope that it's like, and that's the thing. It's like, I hope there's not this thing that like, if you don't spend 200 hours in our game in a season, then GMs are going to be something so difficult it's going to make you turn off, and that's why we put the barrier up. There's a tiny me that worries that's it, but most of me hopes it's not that, because if it is, that is in my theory, also a very bad idea. But there's a little piece of me I could see a tiny piece of that being true. But on the other side, it's like, this is the point where it's like, it just keeps coming up over and over, and we've had all this stuff at this point. But I think we're starting to see things like champions. There's no champions on the legend difficulty of the exotic mission. They're not in there. We have the heist battlegrounds.
Master Dungeon.
Are they in the Master Dungeon? I figured they were going to be in there.
Overload Metaphors.
I figured that was what it was going to be. But the heist battlegrounds, while you do see some champions in there, we also have the Death Tongue Choristers. Those are another elite enemy that's like flashing at you. It's like, you need to focus this one, but it's not a champion. So they're flirting with something. We've got the Tormentors coming next season, which look cool. Be curious how threatening they are. But again, they're flirting with things that are not champions, because I think this feedback that, again, it could take them 6 months to a year to take feedback, but get it into the development cycle of things that are actually like coming through. So I'm hoping a lot of the continued feedback we've had over light leveling, not going to be a thing that's going to affect a season, because seasons they're small and you're not going to see big system level changes. But man, I'm crossing my fingers we see some kind of update for light level and Lightfall, because we are long overdue, and all the stuff you guys are saying, there are so many other ways to fix it. Especially, yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Travis. I think you get a big expansion, be like, okay, cool. Next season in Lightfall, we're going to be 1,800. And then in Final Shape, we're going to be 2,000. Hey, nice. And, huh?
That's what they used to do. The seasonal grind is relatively new. I mean, when Destiny 2 launched, they were just doing
well, they had 50 at one point, then they took it away, and then they brought back the 10.
Yeah.
So they've been all over the place on it, and they haven't quite figured it out. And I would be cool with the expansion, and then these difficulty modifiers during the seasons. And the artifact, I honestly don't love that. Again, it's time for your level. It doesn't do anything because it gets reset. And I think that's one of those things when it comes to Destiny having a long-term investment. Investing into your time and then seeing that number drop at the end of a season sucks. It's not a good feeling for anything that you invest in and then it's stripped away. So it's like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Anytime they've invalidated progress, it's always felt bad.
Yeah.
And that's a really good example.
Hey, E, is Cog gone next week?
Yeah, he is.
We should get my buddies Brandon and Paul, who just started the game this season. on the show.
I'm happy to talk to them if you can get it worked out. Yeah.
Honestly, talking to them is hilarious. We might need to lift the embargo on cursing on that episode.
Well, I will give a warning up front. Give me 5 minutes, and then we can get into the fun chats. But I mean, it would be interesting. Yeah,
some random guys who just started playing the game and have thoughts, because it's such a funny experience. I would love to do that episode.
Next week might be an interesting week for that, because we've got the exotic mission now. I don't think anything besides story would happen next week, so that's probably if you work it out, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, he's there in the comments. He says he's down to do it. So it's Brandon and Strassner there. He's
been talking like crazy.
Yeah, he has a lot of thoughts. He's very into the game. He has sort of an addictive personality when he gets into things.
Like, if you want to hear a new player semi-rage in parentheses while also praising, I'm happy to join. Yeah, we'll see if we can work that out next week. I'll let Travis figure it out, but we can do that. But yeah, it's like I'm hoping they haven't told us much about Lightfall. We know Neomuna and Strand. And we saw the Guardian rank system, but there's going to be some systems that we don't know about yet, and I'm hoping we can figure something like they figure something out with the light level grind, the annual versus seasonal something. I don't know, because it does feel time.
Your boy's nervousy.
I know.
Boy is nervous.
I mean, we're gonna get through the seasonal story in like 7 weeks, and then we're gonna have 5 weeks of like Lightfall hype and build up. So it's got to start coming sooner or later. It feels like. But yeah, we've got a dungeon this season. Pretty solid. I mean, yeah, we had a reused boss, but like Galvaron was a reused. We've had a lot of reused bosses in dungeons. They're kind of a frequent thing, even if they have like.
I know, that's the thing, is we don't even criticize them for it anymore, because we're so expectant that it's just going to be a dumb repeat of a boss.
Yeah,
it really bothers me.
So we've seen those, but again, they have a little twist of how the mechanics are. So this one, you got to connect all the wires, get the 4. Yeah, you do shoot the boss in the same way, but getting to the boss damage phase is done different. Same with duality. We got an exotic mission this season. We have a pretty solid story going on right now with Rasputin. I don't know if you guys caught like Bife's video of the Spire, the Watcher. They're talking about kind of the AI that was sitting out there, and then it was kind of doing a scan in, say, the Andromeda galaxy, if that's right. I think that's one of the closest stars. I forget. But it's like scanning the Andromeda galaxy for habitable planets that are 25,000 light years away. And who knows if you could do cryosleep or who knows what. But if you could get there, theoretically, and then all of a sudden it's like there are 300 possible planets. And then real-time update, there are 29 possible planets. And then there's an anomaly. So it's like the pre-collapse, almost historic, like kind of timeline. And it's this like Watcher AI that got to learn about, hey, something in another galaxy is probably experiencing the Witness and the Pyramid ships in this anomaly, kind of like we saw before. And we're like working on rebuilding Rasputin. I still feel like Clovis is going to screw us at some point. We still haven't seen, Mara very much, but I'm loving her dialogue where she just gives Clovis a hard time. We've got Caiatl, we've got Mithrax that are in some cinematic somewhere. This season is like so far pretty great.
Can I counterbalance the Mara love with some Mara hate by just saying, Bish, you literally let yourself get yoked by the Witch Queen, okay? In the most obvious and stupid way possible. The God of Cunning just like destroyed you. So maybe let's like take it down a couple notches with like the I'm awesome, attitude. Like you kind of got chumpatized a little bit there. So let's just cool it. All right.
I mean, in fairness,
Clovis stands.
I do forget. So last week, by the way, I joked in the middle of the podcast. I was like, hey, if there's an artist who hears this, can you please make art of Travis, like just professing his love or whatever it was to Clovis Bray? And I swear 5 minutes after we were doing our post show, like offline, we were chatting and I got tagged in the tweet, and the artist, I don't have it specifically. I would have to go look up the tweet again. But I saved the picture, and it is amazing because somebody did the art of Clovis, Travis with the black tie hanging out. And you're like, that was so good.
It was beautiful.
The art last week was amazing. I shared it on Twitter, so if you didn't see it, I've got the picture saved. But
here,
I
found it.
That needs to be my my profile picture on Twitter. I forgot to change it, but I was planning on.
I was being serious. If you don't hang that in your house the next time I'm there, I'm just gonna leave. I expect that to be like on the frames behind you.
I'll get a frame.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
Yeah,
That'd be interesting. Please, can I request that somebody, if they're an artist, not do art of me loving Gambit, as somebody in the comments suggested? Please do not do that. That would be sacrilegious.
Yeah, no, none of
I'll
that.
take the Clovis. I
Yeah.
actually like Clovis.
But we've got interaction with characters. The voiceovers feels a lot more interesting this time because you do have dialogue between so many different characters that we've got. And it feels like the characters are of, you know, because like Mithrax and Ido, while the discussion is interesting, they don't have the weight, I feel, of like a Clovis and a Mara. Or Elsie and Anna even feel like they have more weight to them than, say, Mithrax. Now, Mithrax could be important later on, and Ido's kind of cool. But last season versus this season, 3 weeks in, it's night and day the way the story feels this time around. So I'm like, I am thoroughly enjoying the season. Yeah, we're going to get to the end of the season. We're going to have 5 weeks of downtime, but it's going to be short. But it's like they've preloaded the season pretty heavily right now. I don't know if you guys have been baking any cookies or don't care about the dawning, but it's been a fun 3 weeks so far. I will say that. I think it's been a pretty good start, at least so far. We'll get to the pain points and looking at GMs and am I high enough on all that stuff later. But right now, I will say they kicked the season off really strong personally. Where are you guys at so far?
I've liked it a lot more than I've liked other seasons. You know, I griped about the dawning for like an hour and a half last episode, but you know, that's sort of just normal frustration with Destiny that I think we all have from time to time. But in general, this season's impressed me a little bit. The exotic mission's cool. The dungeon has been a lot of fun to do and redo. And comp, which I think I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about because it's the main thing I've really been enjoying this season, is great. I got my first promotion series this week. I got dropped into gold 3, which I think is the highest you can get initially, and I have been just sort of grinding my way up it since. And it's great. I mean, I think I've been seeing some stuff online about people complaining about connection matchmaking. The connection is sometimes not great. I haven't really experienced a lot of that myself, but I understand that when you introduce new factors into matchmaking, it's going to impact other factors of matchmaking. And I just want to say out there, the people that are saying, you know, connection-based matchmaking is better to skill-based matchmaking, they're not mutually exclusive. They both should be important factors when you're deciding on who you're going to matchmake somebody with. And so I think, at least in my experience, I think that it's working for me mostly right now. I understand that there's some issues that has to probably do with player base of Destiny in general right now, and the fact that this matchmaking system is still very new, but I applaud them for implementing it. I'm having a lot of fun with it so far. I want to get to platinum or whatever it is. I just haven't had really enough time to play, but I want to play more. And I think the only thing they're missing is given rewards. If you could if there was something I got from reaching platinum, an emote or something, I would be playing a lot more. Because right now it's sort of a casual interest. It's like, oh, I'll get there. I'll get there eventually. I'll work my way up. I don't know when, but I want to get there. So anyway, I'm really enjoying this season so far, and I think part of that is that I'm not playing it a ton. You know, as I always say, my goal is to not hate Destiny, and so I'm playing it a little bit every week, doing some Crucible comp where I live, and not killing myself grinding, which is great.
I mean, it's the right time for that. What about you, Teddy? Where are you at so far?
I like it so far, especially because I think the last 2 seasons were pretty weak, both in terms of story and the actual content and grind. I think.
I was like, how is your? I was gonna ask you how your Triumph grind is going.
I today actually I'm finally gonna sit down and like actually start to go for triumphs because I was more focused on getting my pinnacles out of the way and then also the challenges because I was behind on everything. So tonight, that's kind of where I'm starting at, but I've been getting them kind of casually. Dawning is whatever. I think it's the best event, honestly, because it's the only event where you just play the game and you just get the stuff. And then I don't really have to participate with it until the final week where it's just, all right, go bake 1,000 cookies and turn stuff in. For that reason, I like it. I don't mind it. And the rewards are pretty good. So that's a plus.
Yeah, if you get an avalanche with subsistence and incandescent, it's very fun.
Yeah. The seasonal triumphs aren't that bad. I haven't like thoroughly looked at them, but just skimming them yesterday for the first time, really, I didn't see any like super egregious ones. I think the title for the dungeon is fine too. It's easy. Am I missing anything else? I haven't touched comp yet. That's sort of on my like in a week or two list of things to do once I get a crew that's around my SBMM to run it. I have heard some complaints. I have heard the connection complaints, but I've also seen a lot of similar complaints to D1 and even early D2, where the SBMM is kind of tweaked in such a way that like I can't. There's certain friends I can't play with because they're better than me, and as a result, it just ends up being a poor experience for the two of us. So I need to find people that are like around my level, which is fine. I think that's their intention, and they want it to be like that. So I'll reserve judgment for when I hate myself after playing like 4 games, but I'm just not a PvP player. But overall, I'm enjoying the story. Like I said, Rasputin is my favorite motif in Destiny. I think it's the most complex and the actual most like thought-provoking aspect of Destiny. And I say that like loosely because nothing in Destiny is actually that like deep or thought-provoking. But the fact that it deals with like an existentialist AI that you're trying to like, it's trying to understand humanity. I think that's a cool concept. Even if it's like pretty surface level stuff. I am glad that characters are finally coming together, and we're sort of, after 2 seasons of basically nothing important happening, we're sort of getting this culmination, or at least hopefully that's my hope. But yeah, I'm just taking it easy. I'm not grinding super hard because there's not too much to do. It's just, for me, it's just catch up since I was gone a week. But yeah, I give it a solid thumbs up. It's better than the last 2.
That's fair. And I think, so what was it, Haunted? And then Haunted was definitely mixed bag on kind of stuff going on in there. We got Duality, kind of cool, but definitely had some bugs for a very long time. Last season, King's Fall was a refresh, so the seasonal stuff also pretty light. And then this one, it's just exotic mission, dungeon, stories hitting, lots of characters, heist battlegrounds. We got difficulty. I think that's one thing that honestly, like, when I go to a heist battleground, I don't just be like, oh, I gotta go do another expedition run so I can open the chest at the end. I gotta be like, all right, so we got 5, so I gotta make sure I bring a couple champion weapons. When that Death Tongue Chorister comes up, I gotta focus up, make sure and like nail him down. There are a couple things that the difficulty does, and the Death Tongue Chorister, because when you get suppressed, it sucks. If like your team doesn't help you and you get suppressed, you're like, oh man, it's gonna take way too long to kill this guy. So I just dump heavy, super grenades, everything I can into that guy every time. But it just makes me a little more active in the playlist, and I kind of like that. Like, I kind of like, sometimes you die, sometimes you're like, okay, yep, I get smacked in the face. The Europa Shrieker room is just, for whatever reason, that seems like the worst of the 3 boss rooms. Like, the Knight's not too bad, and then the Scorn one's not too bad, but that Shrieker room, for whatever reason, there's just a lot of open space and a lot of stuff that shoots you. That one always feels, but they all feel pretty good. Like playing the new exotic mission on Legend, I got the solo flawless in like 4 runs. The new dungeon, I'm like just probably a little patience and I'll get my solo flawless in there, but we're close. But I feel like everything that's been delivered, while you're seeing reused assets from Deep Stone Crypt and the exotic mission. We've got a reused boss in the Spire, but I mean, it's still one of those where you can see the Spire you're going to, you go down in. We got a chicken boss, and while it does feel like a slog as a solo player, especially on some of the damage phases until you start working some stuff out, it gets a little better. Outside of just some of the health pools as a solo player, I think everything this season so far is, as you said, probably hit better than the last 2 seasons pretty much across the board. Like, Duality had some really cool lore. I actually really enjoyed the Callus and Caiatl behind lore discussion. But, I mean, outside of those voice lines, I'd say, yeah, this is basically second best thing we got this year outside of Lightfall.
The best seasons are typically the ones where the gameplay loop just involves one activity. So like this season and the Witch Queen season, because they're just doing PsyOps Battlegrounds. The seasons where there's 2 activities or more, where you have to like get the resource, then play an activity to convert the resource, and then do another activity to spend the resource. Those are typically the worst ones because it's just so monotonous and just not fun. And you know, by week 2, or at least for me, by week 2, I'm already like, oh, all right, here we go. And then when Bungie does stupid things like 250 champions,
I'm so sorry for your I'm so sorry for your grind last year.
The triumph hunting is not a normal player problem though, so I don't know.
Yeah, but
make it 600 champions, Bungie, next time.
They shouldn't do silly things like that where it's like, all right, kill 100 champions, and then the final step is like, all right, now double that and a little bit more, just like the Altar of Sorrows, where it's like, okay, up to step 3 is 100 waves. Okay, step 4 is 500 waves. Have fun.
I will counter by saying they should do that, and next time they should do it way harder.
Just for you to make Teddy cry. That's all you're trying to do.
No, that's not true. I also want to make that other guy cry that we had on the show. Who's
Scarrow.
Yeah, I want to make him cry
we
too.
commiserate together now. It's great.
I love I love that though. Like I love how trophy grinders and stuff like have connected just through our show alone. That was kind of perfect. That was great.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, I know like Cog's taking a couple weeks off. He'll probably get his dose of the story and stuff like that. I've heard the deep Stone Crypt weapon farming is a struggle to get some red border patterns. I haven't jumped in there yet. I don't have Eyes of Tomorrow, so I probably should do it sometime this week. But Christmas and shopping and cooking, and I got way too much going on this week, so I'll have to probably do it the next time it comes back. But at some point, I feel like I need to do Deep Stone Crypt a little bit. Maybe see if I get lucky for an Eyes of Tomorrow. But outside of that, yeah, it's like I can see the story being a nice weekly thing. Kind of slowly working on my red borders and getting ready for Lightfall. Yeah, I've been hammering out so much content. I feel like I've just been playing nonstop. At some point, that'll slow down.
Yeah, after doing the dares grind a little bit last season, where I would do my weekly dares and then I would maybe do like 1 or 2 if I was bored or just trying to knock out other stuff. I decided when they announced the Deep Stone stuff, I'm like, I'm just gonna do my 1 Taniks a week, get my free red border, and I'm in and out. Like no funny business here. And then after seeing Chevy's 2 days of grinding, I'm like, yep, I'm glad I'm not going for this. Granted, like all the guns are pretty good in there, I think, except the sword. Obviously the sniper and the shotgun are ideally what you're going for, but
a hand cannon with volt shots got some potential too.
Oh, that too, yeah. I mean, they're all good, so yeah. It's just, but I'm not gonna sweat it out because it's just too much, especially if the drop rates are really that low. That just seems kind of ridiculous. But I digress. The raid's fun. Just do your Taniks every week, and you'll be fine.
Random question in chat. Somebody's asking, do you know how weapon leveling affects damage ratio? Basically, if you can be up to 20 over an activity. Is that right? Is that the cap of where you get any benefit from it? So if you go back and you do like a 1350 and you're 1370, theoretically, that's the highest. But if you're 1550, it doesn't matter, but it's 20 above. So theoretically, if the legend exotic mission is 1580 and you had 1600 gear, that's the most benefit that you could get. But being 1590 will feel better than 1580 for sure.
It's I believe it's actually 100 up or down.
Oh, did they really get it that high?
Yes, but it's
like has a margin of diminishing
return.
return.
So
yeah,
right, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think around 20 is where basically there's no benefit at that point. Like it's just you're in the decimals,
exponentially tiny at that point.
You guys know if it's true that it is applied across the board for your character based on their overall power level, or is it by weapon?
Weapons are different than armor level because I can take like a 1350 weapon into an activity. I did this on accident. I took a 1350 weapon in and I was like slightly lower level because the average still wasn't too bad, but I'm like, I am shooting like BB gun bullets right now, and then I looked, I'm like, forgot to infuse. So weapon level alone does make a difference.
It's both, yeah. So your weapon level and your overall character level do influence how much the gun does. So like, for example, if you had a really high weapon and you tanked your armor, that believe that will impact you more than if you just had one low weapon like what Ebontis did, and then everything else is fine.
Interestingly, the person in the comments was actually asking about crafted weapon level, which doesn't matter at all.
No, that doesn't matter at all.
Oh no, it doesn't.
It just gives you access to new perks based on how high you get it. But once it's above like 20, I think is the max you ever
16
need
gets you all your 16 gets you all your perk options, and then
17 on some guns.
Raids probably, or
I think King's Fall guns, some of them are 17. I learned that the other day, actually. I didn't know that. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go finish my sniper, and then it's like, nope, you gotta get to 17 to get snapshot. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool, thanks.
That's probably because it just has a couple extra perks, but yeah.
That sort of is dumb, but yeah, 20 levels, anything after that is pretty much useless.
30 gets you the memento.
30 is the memento. Oh, is 20
is
20 the masterworking stat boost? Is that when that kicks in? Okay.
Yeah.
So 20 will get you a stat choice, and then the new exotic is
20 is the most for gameplay stuff.
Yep.
Right. Gameplay power.
Yeah, anything above that's just bragging rights. Like my Brigand's Law was almost 100 because I just didn't take it off for ad clear last season because it was too damn good. But if I can craft,
I also have Gambit mementos. What's up with that? Why do I have a Gambit memento?
Because it's the basic activity you occasionally will do that will actually drop a memento. Because normally you got to get them in like Grandmasters and Trials, I think is the other one. So it's just the random one that you'll probably have. What's the other one?
Grandmasters, Grandmasters, Trials,
Gambit,
and I think Crucible, right? Unless Trials occupies Crucible. I could
think
be wrong.
Trials is. I don't know if there's a
I think
Crucible memento.
Trials must be the Crucible one because I
Yeah.
stopped
Okay.
playing Trials a bit ago, and I don't have a Crucible memento. Maybe actually
Trials,
that might not be
GMs, and
true.
Gambit. Yeah, I think that's about right because Trials must be kind of the
That sounds
Crucible
right.
overlap.
Travis does not love Gambit. We need to stop spreading this rumor. Gambit is a scourge.
I'm just
gonna
gonna
give you
the next piece of
Drifter
art.
coin.
Yeah, the next piece of art is gonna be you and the Drifter just hanging out, and he's just like, all right.
What if I get the voice actor?
Oh, you get him to do like a cameo.
For a cameo.
Cameo.
Yeah. Hey Travis, heard you love Gambit. Yeah. Keep playing, keep grinding, buddy.
That's just the intro to the show now. Every time, Travis loves Gambit.
You know what's sad is PvE PvP modes are a great idea. And when Gambit came out, I was super hyped for it, and I played a ton of Gambit that first season it came out. And then progressively over time, as they took away maps and reduced a lot of the the features of that game that I liked, my relationship with it is so sad these days. It really.
If they did I wish Gambit if they did Gambit with no exotics. That would actually probably make that mode a lot better because you wouldn't be Galahorned, you wouldn't be Truth, which was like older stuff, you wouldn't be Xenophaged. If they took all exotics out of that thing, I think you'd have a better playtime for just about everybody that would feel a little more balanced. Invaders wouldn't be crazy, like all that stuff.
Unpopular opinion.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Unpopular opinion. Gambit itself on paper is fine. It's the players that ruin Gambit.
Interesting.
Because the first year of Gambit was mostly fine. It was once players started
people got good at it.
Yeah, once people started getting good and figuring out like the holes in how it was designed, it got really bad, and that's when they started to tweak it. And then the tweaks, it was the same thing. And now we're at a point where they've designed Gambit in such a way where it's a pseudo race.
They're designing it around the player base, the toxic player base.
So you're always effectively going to be summoning it around the same time. If you summon, like if you're steamrolling them, there's a huge catch-up mechanic, and then they gate the health dynamically in such a way that it feels like it's a neck and neck thing, but it's just silly. I don't want to get into it too much, but the players ruined it, not.
Well, Bungie ruined it by responding to the players, which I think that's why I stopped liking it, because at first it was getting sweaty, but I'm an Invasion tryhard, so I was like, yeah, let's go in there. I'll bring 1,000 voices. I'll just stomp you guys. It's gonna be super fun. And then as they made changes to it, it was just like, all right, so now invasions are kind of pointless because they can just catch up immediately, and it's really just about damaging the boss as quickly as possible. So I don't know. I think they shot themselves in the foot on that one, but yeah. I would love more PvE, PvP modes, but I hate Gambit.
I mean, they could literally do a boss rush on that one. You could do different varieties with that one, but again, like Crucible, just other things seem to be the priority right now, and we'll hopefully see some of the fruits of that labor and other IPs as they continue to hopefully release stuff like 3 years from now. But no, I mean, that's kind of one of those like PvE. You have a perfect setup for like, hey, 2 teams competing with a boss rush, and you just see like a health bar up there, and you're like, okay, you're going hard here. And they could experiment with even like a Gambit Labs or something, but they've just let that one die in a corner, and it's just not a priority. Whether it's the player base, whether it's just like they force you to do it for a Pinnacle every so often, so there's some people in the playlist every blue moon, but outside of that, it has potential. I remember watching the preview. I've probably said this before. The like preview match where they flew people out and they're sitting there and nobody had exotics, and it was just like, your set guns that you could pick from. It actually looked fun. And then now that like between the players and boss nuking strategies, and obviously we're a lot more powerful than we used to be, and exotics, yeah, it's just not quite the same. But yeah, had potential.
My first experience with Gambit was E3 2018. We sat down, we played this exhibition match where it was IGN versus a bunch of their devs, and obviously it's a test build, and it's not our characters. Yep. And the weapons we had were just a lot of like the world drops and some of the Gambit weapons from Forsaken. We didn't know that at the time, but that's what we had, and that played completely differently from how we played it day one. And it played, I think, like the way they wanted us to play it, or the way they intended it to be played. But like then players figure stuff out, and I'm not saying they need to account for how the community is going to think about stuff, but yeah, it spiraled out of control pretty quickly. Even I think in the first week or two of Gambit.
Oh yeah.
It got out of control.
That was like fast. Sleeper and Queenbreaker, and yeah, it's been one Chaos thing after another. Yep.
Yep.
Well, Is there anything else you guys want to cover before we wrap this one up, as we kind of turned it into a 2-hour show?
I want to cover you and Jelly, but other than that, nothing Destiny related.
Which flavor?
Apricot.
Like the worst choice.
Yeah.
Just to make sure you're like, oh, I know you don't like this flavor, so you're not going to eat any of it. So now it's just you covered in jelly.
Yeah. I just want to.
Hey, at least I rolled with it at that point.
And rolled in it.
Yeah. Over and over and over, apparently. So.
Yeah.
A meat box of jelly, huh?
A meat box of jelly. A meat box covered in jelly.
Meat box of jelly. You missed the callback early in the show, Teddy, where I was referring to Cog as meat box.
Oh, I thought you were going to say screw Florida, but yeah, that too, sure.
Oh, yeah, screw Florida. That as well. Sorry, any Florida.
We got Travis and Teddy to one GCX, and I think it's just going to be the one.
I think so.
Travis
I don't think you can get me to go to Florida again. Yeah.
Where anytime Florida comes up anywhere in conversation, we immediately text the other person. It's like, screw Florida. And the other person automatically just goes, screw Florida back. It's so great. It came up when I was coming home from Japan. I got stuck in Seattle and I was visiting my two friends that live out there for a couple hours. And they were talking about maybe going to Florida. And I was like, no, screw Florida. And then I immediately text Travis and I'm like, screw Florida. And he, like, within seconds, it was like, screw Florida. And I'm like, yeah.
He could be sleeping, but that one he wakes up for.
Yeah. I wake up and be like, yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
No to Florida.
Yeah. That event, normally, I think the last one wasn't great, but normally that event is very fun.
Like, that's the thing. You saw 2022 is like kind of a weak like reboot year. And I think as more people are getting out now, like everything's going to be safer and safer, and less people are just like, how many shots? Like I'm up to 4 shots or something now, like whatever. It's like, I mean, no event is going to be perfect. There's convention, sickness that happens everywhere. But I think next year's will actually be really good.
If I go again, I am wearing a hazmat suit. I am.
Yeah, he caught COVID.
Oh, you got it.
And you got food poisoning. He got food poisoning from their pizza. Do not eat pizza anywhere in Florida. Would be my recommendation.
I'm wearing a hazmat suit, and we can wave to each other, and just don't touch me or get near me or interact with me. In any
also,
way
Teddy and I went there to make money. We went there with all of the tools of our trade to go and cover games because usually there's other games there. And
there were other games the last time. So.
There were other games in previous years, and it was a 100% bust. There was nothing there. Some of the vendors booked booths and then didn't even show up.
Yeah, like when I went before Borderlands 3 was there.
IGN. We were pitching stuff to IGN, and they were like, and the one thing they said yes to, the footage was so bad we couldn't put it on our site because it was just so unplayable. Remember that? What was that game called, Teddy?
It was one of the ByteDance games, I think, but I don't want to get into it too much. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus.
Yeah,
it was terrible.
Oh, we'll see. But for the time being, I think it's probably a good place to wrap it up. Definitely appreciate the cameo from Teddy.
Always fun.
Unexpected, but always appreciated. Chat, you guys have been amazing. Christopher Sharp, you are again a legend. Happy holidays to everybody, though. Necromancer Zale, you've had quite a few super chats here tonight as well. Thank you for those. Also legend status. And to everybody in chat, you guys have been hilarious. We may see if we can get a couple of Travis's friends on here next week to get a little vent session going on for the new player experience.
Honestly, it's not even an event session. I have so many questions for them. Please just tell me. Yeah.
There are so many things I take for granted that I just play through and know. I honestly I've thought for a long time, I'm like, I want to just post somewhere. Like, is anybody looking to start Destiny that hasn't ever? And be like, can I just be in a Discord with you and be in your fire team? And I just say nothing. If you have questions, you can ask me and just see what that experience is like to be like, well, what's this? Okay, well, what's this? Well, how does this work? Well, what? And just to see what that experience is like to be like, what are the most unknown things, what that would be like? Because, man, I feel like it would just be an endless barrage of constant unknowns.
Content idea. You make it episodic, and you have either you edit it or you get an editor that edits it in that the Twitch montage style where it's kind of goofy a little bit, and you have them do the weird sound effects and stuff when something happens or if they ask a obvious question or something, and you just go along with it and be silent unless they ask you something and see how they perceive it. Perfect Destiny idea.
Oh, yeah.
Throwing it out there.
I've thought about doing that for a while because I can only imagine what is it like for a brand new player at this point? Man, it's got to be in. What about this lore? Well, here's this like 4-hour Bife video. It's going to catch you up on a lot of stuff. It is a bit of a time investment. Throw it on the TV, grab some popcorn. It's a little longer than Lord of the Rings, but you can get through it. Like, that's the stuff. Like, if you don't know, Destiny 1, Red Ward, none of that stuff's in there. There's so much, and you can't go replay like half the stories at this point. So the story alone, because I know Maddie, like Cog's co-host over on Defining Duke, would love to play, but I'm just kind of going, you don't get to go back and start over. You get to jump kind of in the middle and then go.
Yep.
Well, you get a break. You got a little bit that you're covering. Teddy, are you everybody's just in relax mode. So chill, enjoy the time off. My wife's off next week. We're having Chilean sea bass for Christmas dinner. So I'm so done with turkey. So if like I host a holiday at all, I'm making food that I want to eat. So last time it was a brisket. This time it's sea bass.
Is turkey even on Christmas? I thought it was a ham or something.
I mean, my family was like turkey for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and the New Year's was always like ham, which I don't love ham anyway, but that was how mine generally went. I know some people mix it up, so I don't know what general Christmas food is, but are you enjoying any specific Hanukkah traditional food or anything?
Tomorrow I'm going to a Hanukkah party to enjoy some foods there, but not really. Nothing crazy. I'm not a big holidays guy really at all. I'm just I don't really understand it. But yeah, I don't have anything to promote. I mean, I got a review and a preview lined up for January, but for the next 2 weeks I'm a #normal gamer, just playing games, catching up on stuff. Excited about that. And you can follow me on Twitter at @TagGuyTravis if you want to see my superior takes.
Of course. Teddy, what about you?
Or art of me and Clovis Bray.
Any fun little nods for you?
I don't have any. We're basically wrapped with work, so you can go check out the Forspoken demo, and I also posted it on IGN if you don't feel like playing it for some reason. Though I do highly recommend you play it. And yeah, you can follow me at Teasing Teddy on Twitter. It's mostly me just either trolling Travis or my other coworkers or posting silly memes because Twitter is a dumpster fire. But I was already ahead of the curve. I was hipster. I was already taking it out seriously. So we're good. Other than that, happy holidays and thanks for having me as always. Even if I sort of snuck my way in a little bit, it's always fun to have our TED talk about Destiny. You know,
exactly. You gotta this addiction, painful as it may be that you have, it's good to vent about it every so often, get some of the thoughts out. So
I'm reinvigorated after my vacation. I feel good. I've got new life in me to power through Nightfall.
Nice. As for me, you guys know, subscribe to the channel, find me on Twitter, streaming on Twitch. Obviously a lot of Destiny. If we get to a point of downtime though, I'm just going to be probably mixing some variety in there and just kind of streamlining straight to Nightfall between now and then, just keeping up with everything we can, keeping the channel busy and seeing if there's if I can squeeze some variety in, I'd like to, but some of the bigger ones are just going to kind of be waiting till later because there's a lot that starts not too far. Like if there's something I can do in earliest January where it gets a little lighter for variety maybe, but late January and February, if I do anything besides Destiny, it's going to be one of those that releases probably. So there's only about 100 games that release in 1 month. It's fun. Well, that's it. So, well, for episode number 229, Teddy with the guest spot. Appreciate the pop in. Travis, of course, holding it down over there. Probably in better weather. It's 19 degrees or 16 or what is it right now here? It is 14 degrees. Feels like -3.
It is the coldest it has ever been in San Francisco.
Really?
In the time I've been here, it is 50 degrees.
Man, I love California.
Gotta love it. Gotta love California.
Woo! We should start that,
True
Travis.
Florida.
Anytime someone brings up California, you should be like, I love California.
I
And
love
that'll
California.
that'll be our back and forth. Yeah.
That's a good California comes up a lot though. We live here. So it's kind of
that'll probably get worn out. But yeah, for me, the cold snap that's hitting most of the country that apparently they said like a generational storm. I'm like, I feel like we had one of those like 2 years ago. So I don't know if it's that dramatic,
it's
but
be more common. It's gonna be happening generationally a lot.
Unless these generations are like you and you're in 3rd grade and the next generational storm's 1st grade and the next one down there's like preschool. It's like they're gonna start happening more frequently. So well, for episode 229, thank you guys for showing up. Cog will be back in the new year. So we got one episode next week. We will see how it goes. Putting all the guests together and everything. So still another episode next week. So we will be back here same time, same bat channel. But for the last word, episode number 229, it has been
The
last word.